Fulham. So Kraft is in, only his second start of the season. Botman back into central defence, his first start since September, and young Miley into the midfield. So Dubravka in goal, Kraft, Lascelles, Botman and Livramento, Miley, Bruno Guimaraes and Longstaff, then Almiron, Wilson and Gordon. The referee, Jared Gillett, blows his whistle, and off we go in this Carabao Cup quarter-final, live from Stamford Bridge, here in West London, on a dry night, not too cold either, and Chelsea playing the ball through the middle as they attack towards the Shed stand to our left. And here is Conor Gallagher. Chelsea with the gold numbers on the back of their blue shirts, with the ball in the centre circle, and back it goes to Badiashile, who finds Sterling on the left-hand side. Sterling takes on Kraft back-pedalling. Miley comes across as well, and Chelsea have to go back centrally to Caicedo. Caicedo looks for Thiago Silva, he's on his right foot, he's thinking about that forward pass, which he finds to Jackson, who is clearly in an offside position inside the penalty area. The assistant on the far side, James Mannering, didn't even have to wait for that one. It was so clear. The flag went up straight away. Glenn Murray.
Well, he's got to be on his A game tonight, because there's no VAR, is there? So they've got to make decisions. No fallback for the officials tonight. No
VAR until the semi-final, so that even though it's a Premier League, two Premier League teams on a Premier League ground, the Football League have decided only semi-finals onwards for VAR.
I suppose the question is, John, is that refreshing?
Let's see, shall we? I'm sure there'll be many people out there who would have, if they're in their car or in their home, have immediately said yes when you asked that question. And the other thing as well, if the match finishes at level after 90 minutes, we would be straight to penalties tonight. Now there's an injury on the far side, and it is Anthony Gordon who is down, and he's helped to his feet by Livramento. Caicedo is yellow carded for the challenge on Anthony Gordon in these opening minutes. Yellow card.
I don't think Moises Caicedo can argue with that one. Scripps right down the back of Anthony Gordon, a minute 30 into this game, and for a second there I'm sure Eddie Howe's heart would have been in his mouth and he'd have been thinking not again. But luckily for Newcastle, Anthony Gordon's up. He's out on that left-hand side, but he's running very gingerly. He doesn't look comfortable.
No, so far so good then with Gordon, who scored in the last two matches for Newcastle against Chelsea, through 1-1 at the end of last season. And that's the other thing. About, less than a month ago, Newcastle beat Chelsea 4-1 at St James's Park. That was the match when Pochettino was in the stands and Reece James was sent off. Just had another look at that as well. But Chelsea coming forward. Fernandes with a pass through the middle. It was cut out actually by Lascelles, who slid across and very nearly deflected it back into the path of Jackson, but it's through and it's in the hands of Dubravka.
Yeah, just going back to that Moises Caicedo challenge there. I mean, we just mentioned there's no VAR here today, but if there was, there'd been a very early, very big decision to make, because that was not a pretty challenge, was it?
It was not. And it's entirely possible that VAR might have still been poring over that. And that's the other thing, I can just imagine the discussions. If we have a couple of very bad decisions that swing this match, then you know where that conversation is going to go. It's Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0, as Newcastle attack with Almiron, who finds Gordon on the edge of the area, takes it down and shoots, and it's deflected up and over and wide as well. That was an opening there, and the ball just wouldn't come down for Gordon, but it's a corner to Newcastle. We'll have that once we get back from Adam Cottier, who's watching the night's FA Cup tie.
Blackpool lead Forest Green Rovers by 1-0. Owen Dale through on goal, got a lucky ricochet off the goalkeeper and put the ball into an empty net. Blackpool 1, Forest Green Rovers 0.
That was the chance for Gordon, Glenn.
Yes, it was, and his touch just let him down. He brought him back into traffic. It'd have been better taking his left foot, opening that angle up and getting a shot across. But very positive from Newcastle with their first foray into the Chelsea half.
Here's the corner, Bruno Guimaraes. It's a deep one, it's too deep, it's over everyone, and actually Newcastle are going to do well to prevent it from going out for a throw-in, which they do on the left-hand side. Gordon, high ball, right across the penalty area. Lascelles is still up, heads it back out of the penalty area. Bruno Guimaraes angles it back to Almiron. Now here's Guimaraes again with that blonde hair, that dyed blonde hair. His cross intercepted by Fernandes. Brazil onto Argentina. Out of play for a throw-in to Newcastle down the right. Newcastle supporters in great voice. By the way, it's cup tie. There are over 4,000 of them here today, and main price tickets £38 tonight, £38 or £19. And the week before Christmas, again, that is with all of the commitments Newcastle have now, the Champions League, European trips. That is great following as Fernandes is fouled by Almiron, and it's a free kick to Chelsea 10 yards inside their own half.
And I think you're right there, John. Ticket prices are quite reasonable indeed, especially this time of year, but it doesn't bring Newcastle any closer to London. It's still a long way, and they've invested a lot of time and hard-earned money, but still they turn out in their forces and they're making a real noise down there.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, I feel, £38, I feel with all of the money that there is in the game and all of the broadcasting revenue, I think that the Football Supporters Association's campaign for it just to be £20 across the board for away tickets, as the years go by, that just seems more and more sensible. However, they've paid 38 and they're watching Chelsea come forward with Jackson in the area on the right-hand side. Botman's gone with him, lovely footwork, and then the ball across is blocked and actually comes off the defender. Botman bounces behind it. It's a corner to Chelsea.
Yes, Nicholas Jackson looking to get in behind at every opportunity, a willing runner. Just some lovely footwork there, 2 or 3 step overs, gets out his feet, and he just hesitates before he hits it. Allows the defender to get back in, earns himself a corner. He's
their top scorer, 8 goals this season, scored the winner against Brighton. That was the only tie that Chelsea have had so far against Premier League opponents. So a corner to Chelsea from the right-hand side. Here is the outswinger towards the penalty spot. It's over Fernandes, but it comes all the way for a curling shot from Gallagher that hits the angle of post and bar. So close for the captain, and then overhit pass forward from Fernandes is through for a goal kick, but Conor Gallagher just outside the D, left of centre. He seemed to have done everything right.
He did. That ball came to him, and fortunately he couldn't hit it first time. It was bouncing. He has a touch. He's got 3-4 Newcastle players closing him down. He goes for that curler back across into the top corner, and it is inches from being perfect.
Yeah, dipped and struck the top of the crossbar. I think Dubravka was beaten, Martin Dubravka, who actually got a Cup Winners' Medal last season. Remember how he was on loan at Manchester United and played a couple of matches in this competition, and then was Cup tied when he went back to Newcastle and they got to the final and Nick Pope was suspended. And I've asked a couple of times this season wondering whether he ever got a medal. Well, he answered that question. A few of our colleagues managed to corner him at the weekend, and yes, he was. When Manchester United came last season, they presented him very quietly with a medal that he says that he's got at home in a box, and he said it's not on display.
Of course it's not.
Of course it's not. So Newcastle 0-0 here, but Conor Gallagher coming very close to opening the scoring. Conor Gallagher, who's yet to score this season, and as Chelsea fans are well aware, there is speculation over his future, Conor Gallagher, whether he might be sold when it comes to January, which seems baffling. Well, it's not baffling, it's finance.
Well, finance, yeah, I find it baffling. We talked about Newcastle having that at the top of the show and having that connection to their fans and the people around them, local players, a player that's been here for a long time. Conor Gallagher went out, proved himself at Crystal Palace, and lo and behold, he seems to be becoming the heartbeat of this Chelsea team, and how they can even envision selling him is beyond me.
Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0. So we know Middlesbrough winning 1-0 at Port Vale. Interesting tie that, isn't it? Middlesbrough in the form that they're in against League One Port Vale, as goalkeeper Petrovic rather slices the ball and it lands out of play on the halfway line. Cheers from the Newcastle fans. Livramento now going back deep into his own half, and here is Botman, who is playing incidentally as the left-sided central defender, with Lascelles staying in his customary position as the right-sided central defender, with Fabian Schär and Joe Linton not involved tonight because of their injuries, as Miley, who scored his first Newcastle goal at the weekend in front of the Gallagate end. Miley back in the team for this one, but Chelsea back in possession. Caicedo playing it back to Petrovic and then to Caicedo. Caicedo perhaps fortunate still to be on the field. I mean, what a blow that would have been if Caicedo had been sent off in the second minute of this match. Talk about changing a cup final, and with VAR it might have become a red card. 0-0 here at Stamford Bridge. Back to Port Vale, Lee Blakeman.
Middlesbrough, Morgan Rogers has got this one. Ball in from the right, found Rogers inside the D, and he just swept it into the bottom corner. Middlesbrough in control, leading at Vale Park by 2-0. Middlesbrough
already on course for a place in the semi-finals. Could be a Middlesbrough-Newcastle final. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0. Newcastle, who've certainly not had it easy in this competition this season, the finalists from last season. Ball in from Kraft into the penalty area, bounces down. It actually took a flick in the box from Longstaff, who's slightly behind him, and that presented it to Badiashile just to whack downfield out of play.
Yeah, he just hung the legs, Longstaff, like you say, he was behind him, and that ball was falling. If he'd just fallen a few yards further, Anthony Gordon was just loitering on the edge of the area, and he had a free shot goal. Luckily for Chelsea though, Badiashile gets it away.
Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0. Yes, Newcastle, who've drawn the two Manchester clubs, so they've knocked out the treble winners, they've knocked out the winners of this competition last season, and the reward for that was Chelsea away. Not the easiest run of draws.
Cue Newcastle winning tonight, getting a lower league team in the next round and getting knocked out.
That's the way it goes. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 0. What's the latest from Goodison Park, Alistair Bruce Ball?
25 minutes played, Everton 0, Fulham 0. Everton fans getting excited moments ago. Dwight McNeil received the ball in a shooting position. Angle was tight, went for power, up and over the bar. Everton 0, Fulham 0.
And if you're on your way home, do be aware, if you weren't, that the BBC Sports Personality of the Year programme is on BBC One right now, and we will bring you more on that. We'll have guests on that during the course of the evening on 5 Live Sport, either side of the football, and I'm sure we'll hear from Sir Kenny Dalglish again. I did hear him on Drive with Claire McDonnell, actually, brilliant interview, and I'm sure that will be an emotional Lifetime Achievement Award that Sir Kenny Dalglish will receive. So you'll hear all of that later. But Newcastle in possession, halfway inside their own half. Here is Jamal Lascelles playing at short distance to Bruno Guimaraes, and then up towards the halfway line, up towards Callum Wilson. Alexander Isak, by the way, is also on the injured list. He's not involved tonight. He's got a groin injury. I don't think it's too serious, but not able to be involved this evening. Here is Gordon on the left-hand side. Comes in field, Anthony Gordon. Then gives it to Longstaff. Longstaff, who's playing as the left-sided central midfielder with Joe Linton out, so in the usual Joe Linton position, with Miley coming in on the right side of Bruno Guimaraes, which is where he's been operating for the most part. And Livramento at left back again. Dan Burn on the bench this evening after making his comeback over the course of the last week, much earlier than we expected. Botman, long crossfield pass, but that's cut out by Colwell, and it's a throw into Newcastle down in front of the stand that we're in, the west stand, the east stand.
A couple of times Newcastle have looked for that big diagonal to Miguel Almiron, haven't quite got it right and got it over Levi Colwell's head, but it definitely is an area that they can try and get behind Chelsea.
Fernandes to Caicedo and Gallagher, and now it's back with Badiashile halfway inside the Chelsea half, and Thiago Silva just waits on the ball. This is only Chelsea's 4th cup match of the season since they're not in Europe this season, as Thiago Silva plays it to the right-hand side, and Chelsea attack with Palmer down the right side. Ball into the penalty area. Jackson's actually taken it back out into the Newcastle left full-back area. Palmer centrally to Caicedo, square from him to Gallagher, back to Caicedo again, looking for the overlap down the right-hand side, but actually Palmer brings it back in field, and Gallagher, it's going to come to the left-hand side and all the way over to Fernandes. Back to Gallagher, middle of the half. Now the pass out to Disasi on the right. Disasi up against Livramento, takes him on. Livramento does slide in and block it behind the former Chelsea youngster, academy product, Livramento, before he went off to Southampton. Corner, Chelsea.
Yes, good passage of play by Chelsea, patient around the Newcastle 18-yard box, eventually gets it out to Disasi. Can't quite get the better of Livramento, who I think probably is going to win that battle tonight.
So it's a corner, not absolutely full Stamford Bridge this evening. There are empty blue seats in the two extremes of the shed stand, so it'll probably be just under 40,000.
Are they not meant to be empty?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Seems to be a lot of them. Too many to all be empty. Corner's taken short. Here's the cross from Sterling, but headed away back out towards the far side by Almiron, actually. It's there on the corner of his 6-yard box, and it's out of play for a throw. Miley it was, wasn't it? Miley who headed that away. I've been rather fortunate to see Newcastle so much in the Champions League this season, I've got used to the fact that in the Champions League you can actually see the numbers on their shirt. But domestic football, apparently it doesn't matter, you don't need to see the numbers in domestic football. Here's Palmer on the edge of the area, then in comes the challenge, Longstaff. It's actually bounced out to Disasi, who swings the ball across, but that is a little deep. However, Colwell is onto this. Colwell turns it infield. In fact, he's given it away to Wilson, and Wilson's off. He's got 3 Chelsea defenders around him. He's got a lot to do. He's trying to find a way between them all. Oh, and it's fallen to him, and he has scored! Oh, what a mess! What a mess by Badiashile! He had 3 men to beat, and that final touch by Badiashile just bounced off him into the path of Wilson, and beautifully from 12 yards with the outside of his foot, curled it past Petrovic, and Newcastle are in front. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1, Wilson's 8th goal of the season.
Well, as that goal was just about to happen, it looked like Callum Wilson was bundling his way through 2 defenders. He almost got past Thiago Silva, but Badiashile was just there, easily took the ball off him, somehow fumbles it, falls into Callum Wilson's path. And from 8 yards out, Callum Wilson does not miss. He's cool, he's calm, and he plays that outside of the boot into the side netting. Newcastle 1-0. And I've just looked down at Mauricio Pochettino, and I do feel for him. Individual mistakes costing Chelsea. Individual mistakes all the way through the move. It's Colwell, remember, who gave it away on the edge of the Newcastle penalty area with a pass back towards halfway. He was looking for Caicedo, he missed him, he passed it straight to Wilson, who had so much to do from inside his own half. And Badiashile, he just got his legs in a tangle. Well, I've just seen Badiashile, he's trying to take the ball with his left foot away from goal. It hits his right foot and deflects back into Callum Wilson's path. And that, cliche, but that is an early Christmas present for Callum Wilson. Why didn't I think of that? I think that's his favourite kind of present as well, let me tell you. Why didn't I think of that? It's the classic early Christmas present. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. So, opening goal here at Stamford Bridge. Glenn, you and I felt that this was a very interesting match-up anyway, but I think for Newcastle, the away team, to take the lead, particularly in that fashion, makes it even more interesting. More from Stamford Bridge in a moment, but back to Goodison, Alistair Bruce Ball. 13 minutes remaining in the first half. Everton 0, Fulham 0. Another chance for Everton. Jack Harrison's cross picked out. Jared Branthwaite arriving fast at the far post, headed it down powerfully, but straight at Leno. Everton 0, Fulham 0. And already tonight, Manchester City have won their way through to the final of the FIFA Club World Cup in Jeddah on the Red Sea, having won 3-0 against Urawa Red Diamonds of Japan with an own goal, Kovacic and Bernardo Silva with the 3 goals. So they'll play Fluminense, the Brazilian side, the South American champions, in the final in Jeddah on Friday. So Manchester City closing in on the trophy that, remember, Chelsea won last year. They won it in 2020, in the early months of 2022, when Thomas Tuchel was the manager. That seems like eons ago, doesn't it? You've just got away with that start, haven't you, John? Just got away with it last year. Yeah, last year. But Chelsea now, mid-table Premier League outfit, and with their manager, Mauricio Pochettino, who's been given the job by the new owners of bringing back the good times. Already, as Glenn Murray's told you, standing, shaking his head at what this team have done here tonight, with a really, from a defensive point of view, well, from every sense, a terrible goal to concede. I mean, you can't land that on the manager's doorstep. That is individual errors that you can't account for when you're doing your preparation midweek and things. But I think we've seen quite a lot here, especially here at Stamford Bridge. We've seen a blueprint of how to beat Chelsea. Sit in, frustrate them, hit on the counter-attack. And often it's taken to the 60th, 70th minute for that to happen. The teams like Nottingham Forest. Now, Newcastle are 1-0 up, and it's Chelsea have got it all to do. And Wilson coming forward, gives the ball to his left to Gordon. Might have been offside, but the flag stays down. And in actual fact, the covering challenge came in from Thiago Silva, and Chelsea have got it back. And the other point again, just to stress it, if you missed the early part of the match, Chelsea could easily be down to 10 men in this game. There was a challenge by Caicedo on Anthony Gordon, and your feeling, certainly, Glenn, was that if VAR had been in operation, they might have said red card for that. Yeah, without doubt. I think it was a questionable one. It was so early on in the game and so unnecessary. It was deep in the Newcastle half. I don't know if it was an accident, but he scraped right down the back of Anthony Gordon. And yeah, it would have been one that I think VAR would have took a little bit of time over.
England's latest T20 match in the Caribbean is underway as well tonight. We'll get the latest on that in a moment, but Chelsea are attacking with Raheem Sterling on the left-hand side. Raheem Sterling, who won this competition again and again and again and again and again with Manchester City in his time there. Ball back towards the halfway line. Now Thiago Silva on the right. Now to Disasi. Back in field towards Conor Gallagher. Chelsea could have been 1-0 up if Gallagher's shot had been, 6 inches lower. Struck the crossbar. But it is 1-0 Newcastle. And here is Colwell, who was one of the guilty parties in the conceding of that goal. Sterling back to the halfway line.
And we see Chelsea just with comfortable possession, just inside the Newcastle half. But Newcastle are so happy, so set. They're in two banks. Well, they're in a bank of a 4 and a 5. And it's like, come break us down, see what you can do. At the minute, the Chelsea play is just a bit too slow. It needs more energy.
Yeah, Disasi infield towards Palmer. Palmer turns, gives it back to Caicedo. That's a little run from Colwell now into the area, but flicks it wide, and Sterling actually has to scamper out to his left to take possession again. Sterling, who scored in that game at St James's Park a month ago. And Fernandes, but Newcastle have got all of the black and white shirts back on the edge of their area. We'll get an update on the cricket in a moment, but Chelsea are still in possession of the ball and attacking. Colwell again. Here's Sterling on the left-hand side. Sterling takes a couple of touches, then plays it infield now. Palmer again. Palmer slips the ball through the legs of Bruno Guimaraes, but then the covering challenge was there from Miley. Here's the goal scorer. Wilson does extremely well inside his own half, but the pass to Livramento was intercepted by a sliding Thiago Silva. And actually Palmer does well to keep the ball in play. Botman gave it to him, might have bounced out. Fernandes turning under pressure from Guimaraes, scoops the ball forward, bounces off possibly an arm on the edge of the box. It bounced away from Botman. Longstaff was in there as well. Still play continues. Left foot shot from Palmer, and Dubravka goes down to make a straightforward save to his left, diving towards the foot of his post.
Yes, Palmer just cutting in on that trusty left foot. He's always going to hit the target. The most difficult thing for the goalkeeper, he bounces just before him. A nice piece of clean handling from the Newcastle goalkeeper. So
Chelsea 0, Newcastle United 1, and we will get an update now on the T20 match in the Caribbean. It's being monitored by Kevin Howells.
And it's worth noting it's a low-scoring ground, supposedly, this Brian Lara Academy. So this is a really good start from England. The opening pair of Salt and Butler, strong, skillful and placement. They're 62 for no wicket. Midway through the 6th over, that's the last over of power play. Salt on 33, Butler on 28. England 62 for no wicket in the 6th.
Right, regular updates from Kevin throughout the course of the next few hours as that match unfolds. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. It is still Everton 0, Fulham 0, Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2, and Blackpool winning in the FA Cup tonight against Forest Green. Also Portsmouth playing Wimbledon in the EFL Trophy tonight, which will also keep you posted on. Get a word from Glenn in a moment on whether that might have been a handball by Longstaff inside the box, but a corner is taken, won by Sterling, this one, and then the cross from the left-hand side from Palmer is too close to Dubravka, who comes forward and catches. So Glenn, was it a handball by Longstaff?
I think it would have been very, very harsh. I think it was headed onto him by his own teammate Sven Botman from very close proximity. Would have been a harsh one, but one they would have definitely looked at.
But no VAR in operation until the semi-finals. Gallagher does well, skips away from Miley, then he's away from Longstaff. Two more Newcastle players in front of him, so he passes the ball to Palmer on the right-hand side. Gallagher makes himself available, then turns again. Gordon's now back in with the challenge. But Gallagher keeps possession, gives it to Palmer. Palmer's ball across. Caicedo very nearly found the pass into the penalty area to Badia Shield, but it was just cut out for Newcastle, who break towards the halfway line. Almiron chasing after it. Colwell has nicked the ball away from the Paraguayan, and Sterling goes back towards the halfway line. So 1-0 Newcastle lead through the Wilson goal. That's his first goal since he's returned from that latest injury that he had.
And it's almost back to reset, isn't it? Newcastle in a 4 and a 5. Callum Wilson up front. Come and break us down, Chelsea.
Wimbledon winning 3-0 at Portsmouth with still over 5 minutes to go to half-time in the EFL Trophy match this evening. 1-0 to Newcastle. Here is Caicedo to Gallagher, who has a look over his shoulder. And then back to Thiago Silva, now to Disasi. Still the ball near the halfway line, so Gallagher goes back into his own half. Yeah, it does feel strange, I must say, watching a match of this level now without VAR involved. And with all of the debate, I thought it was interesting, the Cardiff City manager I saw the other week saying that he felt that VAR must be brought in the Championship. He said without VAR it's potentially costing managers at that level their jobs, and yet managers at the top level saying it's because of VAR that managers are losing their jobs. So I don't know where the truth is exactly.
Well, it's all about personal opinion, I think, isn't it? And I think it's inevitable that it will reach the Championship at some stage. I think it's a probably question on finances. It's one thing that is ultimately frustrating week in, week out, but I don't think we can go without it. It would set us at a disadvantage on a world level and a European level, I think.
1-0 Newcastle lead. Here's Gallagher. Back towards Thiago Silva. Mauricio Pochettino making just the one change to his team tonight. Mudryk on the bench, Fernandes coming in. Back to Goodison, Alistair Bruce ball, because
Fulham lead against the run of play late in the first half. Anthony Robinson's pacey near post cross has been deflected in, possibly off Nathan Patterson. I think it'll go down as an own goal. I'll clear it up in a second for you, but the scoreline is the all-important thing, and it's Everton 0, Fulham 1.
And to Port Vale, Lee Blakeman.
A couple of good chances, but Middlesbrough still lead 2-0. Gavin Massey's cleared the crossbar from a yard out for Port Vale, and then Crooks is just being played clean through on goal for Borough, and he's put it over from about 6 yards. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2.
Oh, we've got quite a lineup at the moment in the semi-finals, Glenn. The teams that are in front win. Fulham, Middlesbrough and Newcastle would be the teams in the last four, and either Liverpool or West Ham.
I'm just watching that Callum Wilson goal back there, John, and it doesn't get any prettier, you know. From a Chelsea point of view, I mean, it was catastrophe stuff, wasn't it? Callum Wilson, his eyes must have lit up inside that 18-yard box. Slot home, one of the easiest finishes he'll have all year.
As Gordon tried to find the pass through the middle for Wilson, but passed it straight to Badiashile. Yes, in the olden days, boys and girls, of VHS video recorders, you'd have your Christmas videos of all of the various footballing mistakes. Danny Baker probably bought himself a new house out of that. And that Badiashile error at the back might well have been part of that sort of thing. Sterling does well, gets the ball back. Sterling into the box, plays it across the face of goal. Went to sort of cushion it in with his instep, but rolled it beyond the dive of Dubravka and wide of the far post.
Yeah, and that is one match-up today where I'm expecting Sterling to get the better of Kraft, ask questions of him, get inside him, and he just looks to roll it. I think it's through Jamal Lascelles' legs as he's coming across and slowly into the far corner of the Newcastle goal. Just gets his angle slightly wrong, but better from Chelsea.
I think it's an interesting one tonight, Glenn, that we've got Sterling playing on the left-hand side for Chelsea, and we've got Anthony Gordon playing on the left-hand side for Newcastle. Two players who are not in the England squad, or haven't been in the England squad this season, but certainly would like to think that they're contenders to be in the squad for the Euros.
Well, without doubt, both their performances from the beginning of the season, I think Sterling's a mission. It surprised a lot of people.
Here's Palmer into the box on the right-hand side. Palmer pulls it back. Sterling on his right foot, takes a touch, shoots, saved by Dubravka, and bounces away. And Bruno Guimaraes was in there as well with Dubravka. It might have been the defender rather than the goalkeeper who blocked that. And then Almiron goes down in a tangle on the halfway line with Colwell. But play continues. Colwell's flat on his face. Apparently it was Bruno Guimaraes who got the block, not the goalkeeper. Hence his celebration, actually. He got to his feet and celebrated, clenched fists with the Newcastle fans behind the goal before he ran away.
He did brilliant touch by Sterling. He gets cut back and Sterling could hit it first time. There's a couple of Newcastle players there. He has a touch just past the onrushing players and gets a brilliant shot on target. But you're right, it was Bruno who managed to stop it going in the goal. He was on the line, and his immediate reaction is to turn his back to play, look at the Newcastle fans and celebrate double-fisted. It just shows what a togetherness Newcastle seem to have at the moment.
And of course their away form has been much talked about. They've not won away since they won at Old Trafford in the previous round in October. Good win that was, that night, 3-0 against Manchester United, whatever sort of shape they're in. But the last two away matches have resulted in their two heaviest defeats of the season, both of them in the Premier League, as they were well beaten at Everton in the end. And very well beaten at Tottenham. I know I was there for that match. Here's Chelsea on the left-hand side. Sterling, I think you could argue there that he should have scored. It was a very congested penalty area. He did all the right things, danced around with it, found himself the space, but Bruno Guimaraes was able to put the block on it. Chelsea with the ball inside the Newcastle half. Thiago Silva, Disasi on the right-hand side, and Disasi back to the ever-experienced 39-year-old now, Thiago Silva. And now here is young Colwell, and Colwell finds the pass to Sterling on the left-hand side. There's going to be a Chelsea change very shortly, so someone must have a problem, Glenn. Broya's going to come on, so who is struggling? Is it Jackson? It seems all right to me, as he comes close to get the ball to Caicedo. I mean, it must be an injury, you'd think, with 15 minutes of the first half to go.
Well, no one's gone down, or we haven't seen any signs of anyone saying they want to come off, so it's a real surprise to see Broya come out. But I was just looking at both benches there. Mauricio Pochettino's been on the sideline the whole time, and I haven't really seen Eddie Howe. He's sat quietly, relaxed. It's Jason Tindall that's up there shouting orders at the moment.
Well, here he comes, on cue, with his coat on. It's his 100th match tonight as the Newcastle manager in League and Cup.
What a 100 games that's been.
Certainly has. We're going to talk about the rise of Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper. But remember, Newcastle were right down the bottom end of the Premier League when he was appointed 19th. Right, let's see who's coming off. It's Enzo Fernandez. Well, he must have a problem, although it's not obvious.
Substitution for Chelsea, replacing number 8, Enzo Fernandez.
So he trots towards the sidelines, slaps hands with the oncoming Broya, and there's a slap of the hands and a hug from Mauricio Pochettino. Or is it that he feels that he has to make this change?
Well, he headed right down the tunnel, followed by who I'm guessing is a physio.
Okay, that's the answer then.
The only thing is, I suppose, is that it's not a like-for-like change. He's gone for somebody that's an out-and-out striker, and it actually looks like Broya and Jackson could be up front, or he's certainly going to drop into the 10 here. But whatever it is, it's an attacking, thinking substitute very early on in this game, trying to get back into it.
So that looks like another injury problem for Chelsea. And their injury list is almost as long as Newcastle's. I mean, as the ball is played forward for Chelsea, but bounces all the way through for a goal kick.
I think all Premier League injury lists are pretty long at the moment now. We're talking about certain ones, but
Manchester United, I was watching them the other day, lengthy. But I think these are the two longest currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, Enzo going off so early for Chelsea, but it does give them the opportunity just to change formation and try and ask a different question of this Newcastle side, because so far they've been relatively comfortable. And
Newcastle are leading through a comedy goal almost, eventually finished very well by Callum Wilson. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. 7:45 matches are reaching half-time. We'll go to Goodison in a moment, but here's Jackson. Now to Sterling. Sterling looks up, 25 yards out, gets the ball back. Sterling into the penalty area, defenders are there. Lascelles in with a challenge. Sterling went down very easily, and referee Gillett is having none of that in terms of it being a penalty, which is what the crowd were appealing for. Gallagher has the ball in the Newcastle right back area, plays it across centrally. Sterling is there, being booed by the Newcastle fans. Sterling lifts it forward into the penalty area. Livramento comes down, across, heads it down, and will clear away to the halfway line. We've not seen it again yet, Glenn, as Callum Wilson concedes a free kick on the halfway line. First instinct on one viewing?
I didn't think it was. I don't think Lascelles did too much. Yes, Sterling was looking for it, but just going back to that substitution, and yes, it's a positive substitution. We've got an out-and-out striker in Broya. I just wonder if Mauricio Pochettino was interested or slightly, I suppose, can't quite get the right word, but if he would have liked to bring Nkunku on so early. I mean, that is the one that all Chelsea fans want to see him in a Chelsea shirt, and see him try and change his team's fortunes.
But Nkunku still waits on the bench, the former Paris Saint-Germain, former RB Leipzig man who was very, very effective for RB Leipzig in his last couple of seasons there in terms of the goals that he scored, but he injured his knee pre-season, so has only just become available. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. I do sort of feel that we will see him tonight. Certainly with this scoreline, you would think that would be likely if he's ready, which he must be because he's on the bench. Here's Colwell, who plays the ball all the way back to goalkeeper Petrovic. So let's get the half-time news from Goodison then with Alistair Bruce Ball.
Everton 0, Fulham 1. It was a Michael Keane own goal late in the first half. Anthony Robinson's cross, he was trying to chest it away, deflected it past Jordan Pickford at the near post. James Tarkowski inches away from an equaliser with a header just before the break. Everton 0, Fulham 1.
From the Carabao Cup to the FA Cup, half-time at Bloomfield Road. Adam Cottier.
Where Blackpool of League One leave Forest Green Rovers of League Two by 1-0. Owen Dale with the goal, chasing down a back pass. He got a lucky ricochet off the goalkeeper and touched it into an empty goal. Blackpool heading for a third-round tie at Nottingham Forest. They lead 1-0.
Portsmouth 1, Wimbledon 3 at half-time in the EFL Trophy. Vale Park, Lee Blakeman.
Comfy for Borough on the whole, half-time. Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2. First goal had some good fortune about it. Johnny Howson 25 yards out, deflected over keeper Ripley for 1-0. Rogers made it 2 12 minutes later with a tidy finish from inside the D. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2.
And Kevin Howells has the latest on the England innings in the 2020 International.
Well, England need a win to keep this series alive with a game to go. Another stunning opening partnership between Phil Salt and Josh Buttler, both of them with not-out half-centuries. England now, after 9 overs, just 9 overs, 112 for no wicket.
Thank you, Kevin. 1-0 to Newcastle here at Stamford Bridge. And at half-time in this match, the BBC Sports Personality of the Year should be announced, so we'll have that for you at the break.
Lined that perfectly for us, haven't they, John?
They have. They're very good.
Organised around this game, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, not necessarily so. I'm still not entirely sure why it's on a Tuesday night this year. It's usually Sunday night, isn't it? When I was growing up. Newcastle 1-0 up here. Gallagher forward. I think you've seen another shot of the Raheem Sterling penalty appeal. At least I hope you did. Here's Livramento though, bringing it forward for Newcastle, running it down the left wing. He's up against Disasi. Sterling's over there with him as well, so that's part of the rejig for Chelsea. Bruno Guimaraes, that important block from the Sterling shot, back into the centre circle for Lascelles. Lascelles now to the right-hand side, where Kraft is involved. Kraft, who his previous start was in the League Cup at Old Trafford, that win against Manchester United. Now Gordon gets it down from Guimaraes' pass. Gordon overruns it though, and that means Gallagher was in, and Newcastle have committed men downfield, so Chelsea are away on the counter-attack. It's almost 4 against 3. Sterling available through to Breyer in the box. Breyer with a dink. Oh, what a goal! What a finish! But no, the offside flag's up and the goal is ruled out, and Armando Breyer does not score his first goal since his return from injury. It is a free kick to Newcastle.
He doesn't, but boy did he take it well. He thinks he's broken the offside trap. He hasn't quite. I think he's about a yard offside. It's a really good call by the linesman, but when he does get there, he's calm. He lifts it over the onrushing Dubravka, and even though it doesn't count, he'll take a huge amount of confidence from that.
Lovely finish. However, offside flag was up. Was that the right decision? Did the assistant get it right, which he has to do without VAR? It must be difficult for them, actually, you know. Having
making decisions.
Says the former footballer. I just think when you know you've got that backup and then suddenly you don't have that backup. But it's a good test.
That was the right call,
yeah,
without doubt.
Yeah.
Good call by the linesman. Got to give credit where credit's due.
And what about the Sterling penalty shout?
I think that was right as well.
Yeah.
I think the only questionable one is the one really early on with Moises Caicedo.
Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. And here is Jackson, still inside his own half, but shrugging off the challenge from Longstaff. Now Sterling on the right-hand side since the rejig, since Fernandes had to go off. Back to Disasi. And then Chelsea keeping the ball in the central third. Cole Palmer. So Danny Murphy on Match of the Day on Saturday night saying that Cole Palmer right now is Chelsea's most important player, their best player. And already scored 6 goals for Chelsea. And generally his all-round play has been so good.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with that, but I'm just watching this Chelsea build-up, and Thiago Silva steps in and he's confident making a forward pass, but Daddy Shile gets the ball and they don't really seem to trust him in possession. He's made a couple of errors defensively wise, but even when they're on the halfway line there, and he could step in or he could find a forward pass, it's always a Moises Caicedo or a Conor Gallagher that drops in and does the job that he could do, and through doing that you lose a player that's in front of you and another option, so to speak. So that is one where I think Chelsea will want more from the young man playing left centre-back tonight.
The ball was played forward for Sterling there, but there were two Newcastle men in front of him, and Sterling shoved over Livramento, and it is a free kick to Newcastle in their left-back position. Now, Emil Kraft, who has played little or no football this season, as you might know, he's had a serious knee injury over the course of the last couple of seasons, and this is only his second start. He's sat down, had a little bit of a problem, he's got to his feet, and is he going to be all right? Well, he's just sort of trotting towards the halfway line. Get more on that from Glenn in a moment, but more news on England's innings from Kevin Howells.
Jos Buttler is out. He went straight. He was powerful but not powerful enough. Caught on the boundary off the bowling of Jason Holder. 55 of 29 balls in the 10th over. Good opening partnership though. 117 for one. Phil Salt is 61 not out of 30 balls.
Promising Newcastle attack. Almiron sets up Bruno Guimaraes on the edge of the box, but his attempted shot was blocked inside the box. Almiron knows, won it back from Colwell. Almiron now flips the ball forward. Kraft into the box, low ball across, but Thiago Silva was there on the edge of the 6-yard area just to calmly lift it away back out towards the Newcastle right side for a throw.
Good passage by Newcastle. Every time they get into that Chelsea half, they look dangerous, they're asking questions. Miguel Almiron just flicks it to Emil Kraft, who rolls a lovely ball across the 6-yard box. Unfortunately, there's no one crashing that front post in black and white.
Looks as though Kraft is okay. He's going to take this throw after his little worry there when he sat down. 1-0 Newcastle lead, the Callum Wilson goal. Also Fulham and Middlesbrough in front in their cup quarter-finals. Colwell, nice skills at close quarters, running the football from foot to foot and then winning a throw-in halfway inside his own half. Glenn Murray.
I mean, when Emil Kraft went down there, it's not ideal for Eddie Howe because he wants to give players rest, but all of a sudden who appeared from the bench? Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier and Lewis Hall. Not bad replacements, are they?
No, that would tend to suggest that things are just easing a little for Newcastle on the injury front with those players available. And Lewis Hall, it just seems strange to me, I must say, for Lewis Hall, on loan from Chelsea, is able to play in this game, seemingly because a fee had been agreed, and that if Newcastle activate it, then he'll become a Newcastle player on a permanent basis, although there seems to be a little bit of doubt about that at the moment, but we'll see. Certainly a player of great promise. Here's Palmer, right of the centre circle. Palmer curling the ball across to Colwell, and Colwell now just has a look, but goes infield to Caicedo and then back into the centre circle. Mauricio Pochettino, it really seems to be one step forward and one step back at the moment. The win against Sheffield United, lots of positives in that, and then Chelsea concede really a crazy goal in this match, and now it's been given away by Badiashile. Ball played forward towards Wilson, but it bounces back to Petrovic, who passes it out to Badiashile on the edge of the area, who had to be smart there, but he controlled it perfectly this time, passes it forward. Colwell bringing it deep into the Newcastle half. Lovely change of feet from Breuer, took Guimaraes out of the game. Caicedo now to Palmer. Palmer back to Caicedo, now back to Palmer on the edge of the D. Palmer trying to find a way through. Breuer's there as well. Newcastle back in numbers, so Chelsea have to go back towards Colwell. Really bright stuff for Chelsea there. Great skill from Breuer to beat Bruno Guimaraes on the wing. Now Caicedo again, the former Brighton man, chipping the ball to the right-hand side. Sterling is there, booed by the Newcastle fans. That's their verdict on him going down inside the box. Sterling's cross, might have been a shove on Breuer in the area, kept his feet. Gallagher with a shot, that's blocked by Botman, and it ricochets back to Botman, who clears it left-footed to the halfway line.
Yeah, good by Newcastle. Chelsea could have got a better attempt on target there. Conor Gallagher it was quite tame rolling along the ground there, but I must say, since his introduction, Armando Breuer has looked very, very sharp. And a lot of people have been questioning Nicholas Jackson as that number 9 for Chelsea. Well, do you know what? Just behind the scenes, getting fit, that man right there might be the man to change things.
Sterling, just outside the box, finds Jackson. Jackson shoots on the turn, but scooped it wide. He's saying that it took a deflection. Yes, referee Gillett agrees. Took it wide by 2 or 3 feet. So it is a corner to Chelsea from the right-hand side. Seems like Jackson, since Broyer's come on, Jackson's come over to the left-hand side. And are you thinking...
Well, I'm pretty sure that Dan Burn has stripped down to his kit almost now, and he looks almost ready to come on. Whether that's at half-time, there's only 3 minutes left.
Yep, half-time coming up. Palmer with the corner for Chelsea into the near post, which is headed away. Dubravka might have given a call there, but it was headed away back to the far side. In comes the cross again, stretching header by Disasi, but stretching for it, he couldn't keep it down and just headed it up and over the left post. So half-time coming up on 5 Live, so we will be hearing who is the new BBC Sports Personality of the Year, and I know that Gordon Smart is on the red carpet outside the BBC, so there'll be lots of interviews with all of the various winners, and I'm sure we'll hear from Sir Kenny Dalglish again and what happened when he was given his Lifetime Achievement Award. 5 Live Football Daily in the morning, with all of the reaction to Steve Cooper's sacking by Nottingham Forest today. That's on BBC Sounds tomorrow morning, and every morning if you subscribe and download for free. Newcastle with conceding a throw-in. Emil Kraft fell on the ball to try and waste a few moments. We've got 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first half. Chelsea, terrible goal to concede. By that stage, Moises Caicedo might have received a red card for a challenge on Anthony Gordon. It was only a yellow. And also Conor Gallagher with a shot that hit the crossbar while it was still 0-0. So all of the significant action really early in the half. And Chelsea with the ball halfway inside their own territory. A couple of chances for Raheem Sterling since then. Palmer had his shot saved as well. But Newcastle trying to defend and keep what they've got. Here's Colwell. But as he controlled it, it bounced away from him, and he went in with a 50-50 with Kraft, who has come out of that the worst of the two, and he stayed down. And there certainly seems to be a suggestion here that Colwell might have stepped in on Kraft as the two of them came together, and there's certainly words being exchanged down there. Lascelles, the Newcastle captain, and also Jackson's got plenty to say for himself, as he has done most of the season. He's received, I don't know how many yellow cards now for dissent, but Kraft is staying down.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a coming together. I think Levi Colwell does catch him a little bit. I don't think it's too malicious. He's slightly late to ball, but it's just after another coming together, just off the pitch. Levi Colwell pushed Emil Kraft to the floor and he wasn't happy. So there's a little bit of needle between the two players. But Kraft seems to have felt this one. He's still down.
Nicholas Jackson's having to be calmed down by Colwell and by Gallagher. You know, he clearly feels that Kraft is making much more of this than he needs to. Whereas we've seen a couple of replays and Colwell does step in on Kraft's leg.
To be honest, I don't know why he's getting involved. There's no need. I mean, it's not like he's trying to protect his own player. He's just moaning at Kraft, who was on the floor, trying to drag him up by the arm. It's not a good look.
He's already got 7 yellow cards this season, Nicholas Jackson. As ball is sent forward from Chelga. So the first time effort from Broyer. Well, if that had been a goal, that would have been something special. He tried to catch it first time, tried to cushion it in from just outside the 6-yard box from a bit of an angle, and actually just helped it into the hands of Dubravka, the goalkeeper.
Yeah, brilliant ball there by Thiago Silva. Diagonal ball into Broyer's path. I actually think Broyer might have just strayed offside slightly, but for a moment there, Dubravka was just standing in no man's land, and he'll be very thankful that ball found its way into the comfort of his gloves.
So we've had now over 4 minutes of added time, so half-time should be coming up imminently, with Newcastle 1-0 up. And goalkeeper George Petrovic, the Serbian international, I guess he could potentially be involved against England at the Euros when it comes to the group matches next summer. And Disasi then goes down, he's been fouled, and that is it. That's the end of the first half. Eddie Howe, given Newcastle's recent troubles away from home, he will very happily take what's been given to Newcastle here today, and that's what happened. That goal was almost given to Newcastle and Callum Wilson. Glenn Murray.
I was going to say, I like your choice of words there, John, because it was given to them. Chelsea showing glimpses of what they can do. We all know that they're a very talented bunch, but just hasn't quite clicked for them. Newcastle, very regimented, structured, good away performance so far. Callum Wilson's buried their only chance. Newcastle 1, Chelsea 0.
Yeah, very much has a look of Newcastle, now that they're out of Europe, really setting their sights on doing something in the Cups this season. And at half-time, well, they're on course for a place in the semi-finals, as we just watch Anthony Gordon, the last man off the field, who does look to be hobbling, I must say. So we'll keep an eye on that at half-time, see what happens at the start of the second half. But half-time here at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea 0, Newcastle United 1.
Yeah, they could do without another injury, could Newcastle United. Should say as well, Glenn, as bad as the error was from Badiashile, it's a lovely outside of the foot finish from Callum Wilson, absolutely nerveless.
Oh, yeah, Steve, it is without doubt, but you don't give Callum Wilson chances like that. He's an expert goal scorer. At this level, he's guaranteed goals, and you can't give him gifts like that. I mean, it's terrible defending. And Mauricio Pochettino must think, what do I have to do? I mean, if you take that chance out of it, it's a pretty even game, and Chelsea have probably come closest hitting the bar from Conor Gallagher.
But it very much put the bad in Badiashile, didn't it?
Good, that was worth waiting for.
Touche.
Yeah. It was almost as good as the early Christmas present, but not quite.
I thought it was better than that.
Neither of them were up to much, if I'm completely honest. But what do we think about Enzo Fernandez then? Because my sort of view of it was the same as yours, really, John. You just assumed it must be an injury. It was just the way he went down the tunnel which sort of made your eyebrows raise a bit.
Well, that was Glenn spotted that he went down the tunnel. I mean, that tells you all you need to know, I think.
Interesting. Right, well, we'll bring you second half commentary, of course, from Stamford Bridge. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. Scores as it stands in the other games. Second half's just getting underway. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2, Everton 0, Fulham 1. So as it stands, you could have Newcastle, Middlesbrough and Fulham in League Cup semi-finals with one of either Liverpool or West Ham. Much more to come on 5 Live Sport after the latest news with Carl Hartley.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Steve. Rishi Sunak is facing another by-election next year because voters in Wellingborough in Northamptonshire want a new MP. Peter Bourne has lost his seat after he was suspended from Parliament and the Conservative Party. A parliamentary investigation found he had bullied and exposed himself to a staff member on an overseas trip. The suspension of 6 weeks triggered a recall petition. Mr. Bourne says the allegations are totally untrue. The UN Security Council is preparing to vote on a new ceasefire resolution. It's understood that the vote has been delayed as efforts continue to come up with the wording that would avoid another veto by the US. The Scottish Government has increased taxes for the highest paid as part of a package of measures to reduce a shortfall in its budget for the next year. A new tax band has been created which will see those on a salary between $75,000 and just over £125,000 paying 45%. And Housing Secretary Michael Gove says he's going to get tough with councils in England who make building new houses difficult. The government plan to publish league tables to show which authorities are taking too long to approve applications.
Whodunits, crime conundrums, murderous mayhem.
Why are you doing that voice?
I'm just getting in the mood for our new podcast.
Murder, They Wrote.
Hey, I'm Laura Whitmore.
And I'm Ian Sterling.
Now, anyone who knows us knows we are obsessed with true crime.
We're here with a new podcast exploring the dastardly deeds of history's most atrocious criminals.
There'll be mystery, madness, and moments of... oh my God.
Murder, They Wrote with Laura Whitmore and Ian Sterling.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport with Steve Crossman.
On 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
It's Still Blackpool 1, Forest Green Rovers 0 in the FA Cup second round this evening. Remember, BBC Sports Personality of the Year is on right now as well. You can watch that live on BBC One. Here on 5 Live, we're all about the League Cup quarter-finals this evening. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 2, Everton 0, Fulham 1. And in our commentary game at half-time, it is Chelsea 0, Newcastle United 1. FA Cup winner with Chelsea, Mario Melchiot, is with us all evening. That defending for the Callum Wilson goal, Mario, I mean, it was awful from Badiashile, wasn't it?
Yeah, they make a mistake in the middle, and then the ball comes to Badiashile and Silva, and you see, Badiashile here at the comfort zone in the sense of like, I know what I'm going to do. He hits his other leg, and it goes right in the pad to Wilson, and that's not what you want to do, because as a striker as Wilson, he's gonna take the advantage in that moment, and the way he finished that ball off was really, really good to see. The outside to the Buddha made it look easy. But when the game started already, what I didn't like, when you come to the bridge, it's new for me to see that a team like Newcastle can come in and control the game from the get-go. It normally never happens. It took Chelsea too long to get back into the game. I think when they got in the game was when Gallagher hit the crossbar. That's when they started picking the ball back up and started to really get in the rhythm back in the game and started to really, opening up. But one of the key things I think for Chelsea is in the middle of the park. If you look at the guys in the middle of the park, they always turn backwards or sideways. And I feel like sometimes you have to stand on the half turn and knowing like either I go forward because there is a space to go forward, and don't always go the safest way and sideways and back. Because when you keep going sideways and back, you slow down the game. And the game of Chelsea is so slow at home. It's so slow, it makes really comfortable for Newcastle to come there and really play their game in the sense of like, we can sit deep when we have to, we can push up when we want to. You should never let them feel that comfortable. They should always be pushed back and making them know like, listen, you come here, I'm going to push you back. And that's not what's happening. And that's why there are not too many opportunities. And that is what the biggest problem, regardless if Boya came on for Fernandes.
Well, what about the rest of the Chelsea bench? Mudrik's there and Kunku's there, who obviously we haven't seen at all in a Chelsea shirt yet. Do you think that the team out on the pitch now are going to cause Newcastle enough problems? Or if you were Maurizio Pochettino, would you be looking at more additions from the bench already?
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to wait. I don't think you want to change too quickly when you come into... either you change straight away, or either you give it another, 15 minutes, and then make your substitution. So you give... Because I hate it when people come on and they only get like a 50-minute spell. I think that is the most key thing in football anyway. You want to give them at least a run of 20 minutes to making sure that they can get into the game and change the game. And when you talk about the forwards, I'm always like this. Some of the guys, you understand, it's like we can look at strikers, we can look at forwards, but wingers got to produce as much as strikers. We tapped on it just before the game. We talked about it, and I say the same. It's not only the striker that has to produce the goals. It's also the side man has to produce something. And sometimes a guy from the middle of the park has to step up too. And I think where Chelsea is right now, that is one of the key things where they really have to focus on, because Jackson is clearly not the only one that can make the goals for you. And some moments he needs a little bit more chances. It's not always what you want, but he needs more opportunities to score.
Bad night to be a home team in the League Cup quarter-finals so far, because they're all losing, including Everton at Goodison Park, Ali Bruce-Ball.
Yeah, Fulham are 35 minutes away from a first-ever League Cup semi-final. We've played 10 minutes of this second half. They scored late in the first half, did the visitors. Michael Keane, unfortunately, deflecting an Anthony Robinson cross at the near post into his own net. Little bit of encouragement for the Everton fans right at the start of the second half. Jack Harrison making space 25 yards from goal and fizzing a shot just wide. But Everton have got to make the running now. Everton 0, Fulham 1.
Any sign of League One Port Vale getting back into it against Championship Middlesbrough? Lee Blakeman.
Not anymore, because Matt Crooks has just this second made it Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 3. Found Crooks inside the area. He put it into the bottom corner, and we've had 8 minutes, Steve, in the second half. That should be that. Middlesbrough comfortable, in total control, and on their way to the last 4 of the League Cup. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 3.
And assuming that Middlesbrough do go on and win, and it's a very long shot for Port Vale to come back now, they will have one moment, Lee, Port Vale, that they'll look back on and think, what could have been?
Oh, Steve, that's putting it politely, isn't it? I think the people around me in this main stand might have used language slightly stronger, but it was a chisel-at cross from the left. It was 2-0. It was not long before half-time. It found Massey for Vale, Gavin Massey, open goal, a yard out, and somehow he did the more difficult thing, which was to put it over the crossbar. Had that gone in, who knows? But right now, Middlesbrough running away with this one.
There's been a review in the T20 match between West Indies and England. I'm seeing a lot of red, which is bad news for the tourists, Kevin Howells.
Well, it is, although when they're 173 for 2 in the 14th over, I don't think they're going to be too troubled by it. But you're quite right, it's a shame to see the end of that partnership. Will Jacks is the man who's gone, second wicket down, 24 LBW to the spin of Hussain. But that was a partnership. I make it a 56 off just 22 deliveries with Phil Salt. Phil Salt, who missed out on a lucrative IPL deal today in the auction, is on course now for successive centuries in successive matches here. His 93 not out of 44 deliveries. Stunning. Magnificent. England 173 for 2 in the 14th over.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's go back into the FA Cup. The 1 second round tie tonight is Blackpool against Forest Green Rovers. Adam Cottier.
We have played 57 minutes here at the Seaside. Blackpool 1, Forest Green Rovers 0. Owen Dale's rather fortuitous goal in the first half separates the sides. Luke Daniels made a really good save in the first half from Matty Virtue, and Blackpool have had the majority of the openings here. The 150 or so Forest Green Rovers fans doing their best to lift their side, but they have been second best here, and Blackpool lead by 1-0.
A couple of other stories for you. It's Portsmouth won AFC Wimbledon 3 in the last 32 right now with the EFL trophy. Away from the live football, big headline today. Nottingham Forest have sacked Steve Cooper after 2 years in charge. Former Spurs and Wolves boss Nuno Espirito Santo appears to be front runner to replace him. He's certainly in talks, and the Plymouth manager Stephen Schumacher has left the club to take over at Stoke City. League Two's bottom side Sutton United have sacked their boss, Matt Gray. So live scores for you so far this evening in the League Cup quarter-finals. Everton 0, Fulham 1. You can listen to that right now on 5 Sports Extra. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 3, Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. We've got second half commentary on the way shortly from Stamford Bridge. Manchester City have won 3-0 at Urawa Red Diamonds in the Club World Cup semi-finals. Let's take you now to Sports Personality of the Year, where we're about to have a winner.
So, Jane, please, can you tell us who is in third place?
In third place is Katrina Johnson-Thompson.
A huge congratulations. Okay, Jane, please can you reveal who the runner-up is?
Ta-da. In second place is Stuart Broad.
Congratulations, really well done.
Congratulations.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nottingham lad. That one.
Well, this is always a very big moment. Jane, please, can you tell us who is the winner?
No, she's asking me to
Apparently
do
he's doing it.
Chris.
My turn now. And the winner of the 2023 BBC Sports Personality of the Year is, from Nottingham, Mary Earps.
Mary, many congratulations. I knew you wouldn't drop it. You're expecting that one, weren't you? We'd love you to say a few words. If you could come out in front.
Oh, sorry. I don't know
How many I've got? I feel a bit sick, actually. That was really difficult to get up there. First of all, I'd like to say how humbled I am to be on a list of such incredible athletes. I've really enjoyed hearing your stories tonight. I think sport is a fantastic thing where it brings the world together, and to hear you guys talk and hear about your journeys, I just think it's unbelievable. So congratulations to you all. Also, thanks for voting for me, everybody that voted for me. I should probably have started with that one. Thank you very much. I'm very honoured and humbled. For me, I feel like this is, the ultimate all-round sporting accolade, and I think us as Lionesses and obviously United as well, we've had an incredible couple of years. But this is just, wow.
Congratulations to Mary Earps, the BBC Sports Personality of the Year for 2023. We'll have more on that after 10 o'clock, but as you can hear, the second half is getting underway at Stamford Bridge. John Murray.
Yes, second half just underway here with Newcastle leading by the Callum Wilson goal, so Newcastle 1-0 up. 3 changes made at half-time, 2 for Newcastle, 1 for Chelsea. Marlo Gusto is on to replace Levi Colwill, and Gusto already into the action and winning a free kick for Chelsea on the left-hand side. So Colwill off and Gusto on, and for Newcastle it's Sven Botman and Emil Kraft who've come off at half-time. So 2 of the back 4. Kraft certainly took a knock in the first half. Botman only just coming back from injury. This is his first start since September. So Dan Burn is on, playing as one of the central defenders with Lascelles, and Kieran Trippier has replaced Kraft at right back as he comes back from, well, certainly suspension and also a little bit of an injury. So 1-0 Newcastle lead. I'll run you through the teams in full in a moment. Chelsea with a free kick on the left-hand side, with work to do in this quarter-final. Here's the free kick in from Gallagher. Comes off the head of Wilson near the edge of the box. From a deflection, headed it away. Sterling plays a high ball into the area that Dubravka allows to drop over his head and over the dead ball line for a goal kick. So there we are. The news is Mary Earps, the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. So our colleague Gordon Smart's on the red carpet. We'll doubtless have an interview with her later in the evening and hear more from the ceremony before 10:30, and indeed probably after 10:30 with Colin Murray tonight as well. And 1-0 to Newcastle here. Middlesbrough winning 3-0 at Port Vale now. Fulham 1-0 up at Everton. That's the match, that's the commentary match on Sports Extra. Everton 0, Fulham 1. And the teams now, with Chelsea having made their second change, bringing on Gusto at left back. They have Petrovic in goal, a back 4 of Disasi, Silva, Badiashile and substitute Gusto. Then Caicedo and Gallagher, and then Sterling now on the right, Jackson on the left, Palmer playing as the number 10 behind Broya, the other substitute through the middle. And Newcastle, who have a free kick inside their own half. In fact, run you through their team in a moment, because Newcastle are on the attack down the right-hand side. Played back to Trippier, his first involvement. Here he comes, the experienced England man, curling it forward, cleared away by Thiago Silva on the edge of the box. Bounces for Chelsea to Caicedo. Caicedo, little steps from him, and eventually passes it to Palmer, who drags it back. Palmer playing it over here to the right-hand side to Disasi. It's a little bit ponderous, this Chelsea attack, not gung-ho. Palmer then very nearly gave it away. Important touch from Broya, and then Newcastle have it back on the halfway line with Miley, Livramento, Gordon curls one forward. That's pulled down by the right foot of Thiago Silva, and Disasi wins the throw-in inside his own half. So the Newcastle team, Dubravka in goal. Now substitute Trippier, captain Lascelles, substitute Byrne and Livramento, Miley, Bruno Guimaraes and Longstaff, and then Almiron, goalscorer Wilson and Anthony Gordon. So Glenn Murray, second half, Chelsea have got to come from behind. Newcastle, finalists last season, are on course for the semi-finals.
Yeah, they are at the moment. Maurizio Pochettino needs a reaction from his players, and I think Gusto coming on is a positive one. I think he'll get forward better, more naturally than what Levi Colwill will. I just wondered if he could have put Levi Colwill into left centre-back, a little bit more comfortable on the ball than Badiashile.
Here is Palmer, just outside the box, shoots, but it's deflected. Deflected immediately as the challenge came in on that, to take it wide and behind off Almiron for a corner to Chelsea from the left-hand side. Chelsea attacking towards the Matthew Harding stand. Not had the actual crowd figure yet. Over 4,000 Newcastle fans Not quite full in the home sections, but it is full in the Matthew Harding stand behind this goal. As Chelsea take the corner short, Gusto, then back to the left-hand side. In it comes towards the edge of the box. Gallagher's there, but Gallagher is dispossessed by Livramento, and now Newcastle pass it forward for Gordon, but he was beaten to it quite comfortably, actually, and the ball was played back to goalkeeper Petrovic by Nicholas Jackson.
Unfortunately, that's probably the sharpest I've seen Nicholas Jackson all evening, and that was run the wrong way, but boy did he turn the afterburners on. Anthony Gordon didn't stand a chance, did he?
He didn't. Well beaten to it. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. That's Glenn Murray with us here on 5 Live as Newcastle win the ball back on the halfway line, and it's passed forward, but misplaced pass forward by young Miley, coming back into the starting lineup after getting on the score sheet at the weekend, and then Livramento intercepts that pass, but Chelsea win it back. The man who gave it away, Breuer, actually did well to win it back, and Chelsea have got it inside their own half. And now Anthony Gordon has sat down on the pitch. I suspect they've said to him, just go and see if you're going to be able to continue in the second half, because he definitely took a knock. I mean, he was fouled, quite badly fouled, very early on in the match, and that looks as though this could be the end of his evening, as Byrne volleys the ball away on the edge of his own penalty area. Newcastle playing with 10 men with Gordon down injured. Caicedo, Chelsea fans have spotted that, are urging their team on. Disasi on the right-hand side. Newcastle have got everyone apart from the prone Gordon on the ground behind the ball, and now Caicedo passes the ball out of play to a chorus of boos, and you can hear how that went down. And Matt Ritchie's going to come on for Gordon.
Well, that is quite incredible that what we are 50th minute of the game, and the biggest reaction from the Chelsea fans is Moises Caicedo passing the ball out of play, and they're still booing about it now. I mean,
well, Bruno Guimaraes actually went across to Caicedo and said, "Thanks very much, mate. That's a great gesture."
I think Callum Wilson did as well, but I think that just shows the frustration around Stamford Bridge at the moment, doesn't it?
Well, important man, one of their players of the season, Anthony Gordon. He's able to walk off the field, but I think I'd be fairly confident that that's the legacy of that nasty challenge early on in the match from Caicedo. That was a yellow card, and there was a feeling that it might have been a red. Actually, just seeing another angle of that on our screen here, that challenge from, I think it was the second minute, it really did not look good.
He scraped from right behind his knee, right down his Achilles into his heel, doesn't he?
So Matt Ritchie is on. Rarely involved this season, wasn't on the Champions League list, so couldn't be involved in those games. But it's the 8th match he's come on as a substitute. And he's another one, a bit like Emil Kraft, who had to go off at half-time, who played in the match in the previous round, the 3-0 win at Old Trafford. Here they are, Newcastle winning 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. And Chelsea on the attack, the ball played in by Jackson, now playing on the left-hand side, but he's overhit that, couldn't find the pass to Gallagher, and Dubravka has got it again. So Newcastle winning 1-0 here. Middlesbrough comfortable 3-0 up against League One Port Vale at Vale Park. And Fulham still in front at Goodison Park, Alistair Bruce Ball?
They are, with just over 20 minutes to play. Interesting change made by the Everton boss, Sean Dyche. He's felt compelled to take Dominic Calvert-Lewin off to replace him with Beto. I think that just shows you how important Dominic Calvert-Lewin's long-term fitness is to Everton. Chasing the cup tie, they're trailing 1-0, 20 minutes to play.
Kevin Howells is keeping us across the 2020 International, which is being played in the Caribbean. What's the news, Kevin?
Well, the news is it could be a very big record-breaking night, this. Remember when I say there's a low-scoring ground, this? Oh, well, 212 for 2 after 17 overs just under. Another century for Phil Salt following the one on Saturday. This far more brutal. Currently 113 not out of 53 balls. The other record I'm looking at, England's previous highest score, 241. England 212 for 2 in the 17th over.
Goal kick to Chelsea, who trail 1-0. Already we're in the 9th minute of the second half, and Petrovic takes this long through the middle. Breuer trying to flick it on for the run of Jackson or Sterling, but Newcastle dealt with that, headed it away back inside the Chelsea half. Going to go to Vale Park. In fact, let's do that now. Middlesbrough very much on course for the semi-finals, Lee Blakeman.
Yeah, leading 3-0 should be 4. Sammy Silvera's just worked his way into the penalty area left side, tried the curler, went over the crossbar. We were hearing and talking about the great atmosphere here pre-match. It has completely gone at the moment. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 3.
Chelsea on the attack. Ball with Gallagher, central third of the field. Now Caicedo. Caicedo back to Gallagher, who steers a pass. to the left-hand side, to the newly arrived Gusto. Newcastle just parking themselves behind the ball when they're not in possession. And now back to the centre circle for Chelsea. Thiago Silva, right-footed ball. Gusto is able to take that down in his stride. And then in comes the challenge inside the penalty area, but Newcastle are able to clear it away, headed back out towards the left flank. Chelsea again attacking down into the penalty area. Now it's pulled across. Jackson turns and shoots wide from 10 yards. Excellent work down the left from Chelsea. It was pulled back from the dead ball line after the ball across from Breuer, but Jackson, 2 feet, a yard wide of the post?
Yes, and he stands, hand on his head, because he knows that was a glorious opportunity, and that kind of sums up his Chelsea career. He does everything right, takes on his left foot, swivels on his right, swivels a little bit too far, and drags it back across the post that it came from. And another chance goes begging for Chelsea.
In the FA Cup tie tonight, the second round tie, the delayed tie, we'll go there in a moment, but Chelsea on the attack again. Here's Sterling, right side of the box, low shot from him. Dubravka goes down and pushes it away, pushes it across the penalty area. It actually had a bit of power in it, that shot from Sterling from the angle, and you can hear the effect of that on the crowd inside Stamford Bridge. Chelsea on the move again with Gusto, who's already brought something down the left-hand side. A bit of attacking punch, a bit of energy. And Chelsea go back into the centre circle. Thiago Silva with one of those passes, but the offside flag was up against Gusto, who had found himself inside the penalty area on the left-hand side, trying to volley it across, but the flag was up, and it's a free kick for Newcastle. So more from Glenn Murray in a moment. But let's get the latest from Bloomfield Road in the FA Cup from Adam Cottier.
Into the last 17 minutes here. Blackpool still leading by 1-0 against Forest Green. Troy Deeney is on for the away side here to try and affect things and try and at least force extra time, but it's not looking likely at the moment. Blackpool have had the majority of the chances and they lead thanks to Owen Dale's goal. 1-0.
Thank you very much, Adam. And Portsmouth 2, Wimbledon 4 is the latest score in the match in the EFL trophy tonight. Manchester City winners in the semi-final at the Club World Cup in faraway Jeddah earlier, quite comfortably it sounded, against Urawa Red Diamonds. So they'll play Fluminense in the final on Friday as they bid to become the FIFA Club World Champions. Newcastle with a ball through the middle, dreams of doing that sort of thing one day under the new Saudi-backed ownership that Newcastle have. And here, at the moment, leading against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea with the ball in their own defensive third, and Thiago Silva winning a goal kick for his team and racing off the pitch to get the ball, to get play underway again, because time beginning to run out.
Certainly seems like there's a little bit more energy in this Chelsea performance. They can sense they're growing into the game and they want to try and make amends while they're on top.
Chelsea, the 5 times winners of this competition. Only 3 clubs have won it more than Chelsea. And now here they are, breaking from inside their own half, but Miley does exceptionally well to win the ball back on the halfway line for Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes with the pass to Livramento, but that's intercepted by Thiago Silva. Now Cole Palmer. Palmer, lovely play, finds Gallagher, he's got space, Gallagher takes it on, plays it through into the penalty area, but beyond the run of Jackson. And actually Byrne did well, Glenn, just coming across and putting a shoulder into Jackson, and Dubravka was able to collect.
Yeah, a little bit experienced by Dan Byrne there. Knows he's up against a quicker man, but just manages to ease him out of the way. But definitely Chelsea on top here.
Back to Blackpool in the FA Cup, Adam Cottier.
It is 2-0 now to Blackpool. Jordan Gabriel with a goal, lovely ball from Ollie Norburn into the area. He took a touch and rolled it past the keeper right-footed. Gabriel with a goal and a 2-0 lead for Blackpool.
So it looks like Blackpool will be going through to go to Nottingham Forest in the third round, and we will have blanket coverage of the third round of the FA Cup. You'll hear all of the coverage, all of the commentaries on the third round. Well, it's more than a weekend, isn't it? Now, begins on the Thursday night. Not sure whether that's fully on board with tradition, but there we are. That's the way of the world. As Newcastle have the ball and play it back to Lascelles, the captain. Comes in field to Longstaff, forward from him towards Almiron, but Gallagher steps in and Chelsea have this back. Chelsea are knocking on the door, Glenn.
They are indeed. They are indeed. That sounded like a little bit of a grumble there, John, about the FA Cup on Thursday night.
Well, the ball is played forward for Chelsea. Did it sound like that, Glenn? I'm sure it wasn't supposed to be. Livramento playing it through the middle towards Wilson. In comes the challenge from Badiashile. Badiashile, who is one of the players at fault for the Chelsea conceding of the opening goal. Gusto now. Gusto, but the ball drops to walking pace. And Mauricio Pochettino's made his now 2 changes, and still Christopher Nkunku is waiting on the bench to come on for his debut. Thought we might see him in the second half. I mean, there's half an hour to go, but then he's making them wait. Here's Sterling making them wait, making Nkunku wait. But I'm sure there'll be information, won't there, about what sort of state he's in, what his readiness is. Palmer back to the halfway line, and Chelsea paid over £50 million for Christopher Nkunku. And he could be a very important player in the second half of their season. But there again, Chelsea are hoping that this competition is a very important part of the second half of their season. At the moment, they're going out of it, and Petrovic with a pass that was risky to Caicedo, who was actually fouled by Bruno Guimaraes, so it's a free kick to Chelsea.
Caicedo dealt with that so well. He was under real pressure from Bruno.
Great pass from Thiago Silva. Found Jackson in the centre circle. Newcastle just chasing shadows here. Sterling now towards the edge of the box. Sterling to Breuer. The angle's tight. Gives it to Palmer. Palmer drags it back and then couldn't complete the pass to Gallagher on the edge of the penalty area. Chelsea still with it. They've got a brightness about them in this second half, Chelsea. Newcastle are really being tested. Gallagher. Now Disasi. This is on the right-hand side. Low ball across, and Dubravka drops forward and clutches the ball into his chest.
Yeah, he had to be clean with his handling there, Dubravka, because that ball's travelling across his 6-yard box, bounces just before him, but he collects that ball and takes a little bit of pressure off Newcastle, still in his hands, just trying to take the sting out of this Chelsea momentum at the moment.
Yeah, we've got close matches for you, these commentary matches, the crowd getting onto Dubravka because he's delaying his delivery of the ball downfield, which he does now onto the head of Thiago Silva.
It seems like it's becoming a more and more lonely night for Callum Wilson as this game ticks on, doesn't it?
You've been in that role, Glenn. The lone striker.
Too many times,
The
John.
lone striker who's becoming more and more lonely as the game is going on. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. This one's on 5 Live. Everton 0, Fulham 1. That's on Sports Extra. Follow both of them via BBC Sounds. Palmer playing the ball into Breuer, who is in an offside position. And it's a free kick to Newcastle on the edge of their own penalty area. So this is the action right now on 5 Live. We'll have Liverpool, West Ham, live from Anfield. The commentary tomorrow night. Ian Dennis will be in place at Anfield. And in the morning, tomorrow, from 6 o'clock in breakfast, Win the Headlines resumes. And the prize this week is a trip to Berlin for the Euro 2024 final. Tickets, a trip to Berlin, that great city. I was listening to David, the Newcastle fan, this morning, who I thought was going to do it, but he said he'll be listening to the commentary tonight, so maybe if Newcastle can get through tonight, that would make up for missing out on the trip to Berlin, or maybe not. Here's Sterling from the halfway line, passes it forward for Jackson. Jackson might have been tugged there by Lascelles, looking for the support of Breuer, but it runs away from him. And Lascelles probably just not quite enough for Jackson to go down on the edge of the penalty area, but he could have done.
No, not quite enough. Again, I mean, when I look at this game, Chelsea are growing more and more into it. And I look, they've had a number of half chances and they haven't managed to put them in. Newcastle, 1 chance, 1 goal. That's the difference now.
More news on the T20, Kevin Howells.
Is England men's highest T20 total. They are 248 for 3 in the 19th over. Phil Salt is now out for 119 of 57 balls bowled by Andre Russell. Phil Salt, the highest individual T20 score by an England player, beating Alex Hale's 116, out for 119. England 248 for 3 with 1 over remaining.
Ball in for Chelsea towards the edge of the penalty area. Jackson tried to give it to Gallagher. Still Chelsea with it. Middle of the Newcastle half. Caicedo to Disasi. Now infield towards Palmer. Left-footed ball curled into the area. That's cleared away by Lascelles. I think it's going to be good this next 25 minutes or so, the way the game is shaping. Here's Sterling on the left-hand side. Sterling trying to find a way through. Had a couple of big chances in the first half, Raheem Sterling, not able to convert them. Sterling again now. I can see the badge on his shirt glittering away. Ball's played into the area. Gallagher's after it. That's headed away partially by Livramento. Then Miley on the edge of the home box, and Guimarães just volleys it to the halfway line.
John, good from whose perspective?
Good to watch. Hopefully good to listen to. Hopefully great for the listeners.
I think it's going to be a rocky ride for Newcastle. They're getting further and further closer to their goal, sucked further and further back, and they don't look at the moment like they've got their energy to bounce.
Here is Disasi on the right-hand side. Disasi drifts away from the challenge of Miley, then back towards the halfway line. There have been developments at Goodison Park with you, Alistair Bruce Ball.
I think the noise might tell you who scored an Everton equaliser. Beto with a close-range header. Some late Everton pressure in this game. We're into the last 10 minutes. A shot from Ghana that was blocked. The ball spun up in the air. Beto leapt and headed it into the net. Everton 1, Fulham 1.
Beto, that big bustler, he's in with the goals again. I quite like the look of him, Glenn.
Do you know, I think he's been a real positive for Everton. You know, I think he gives the team a platform to build off, and he also gives Calvert-Lewin just a little bit of breathing space to make himself sure he's fully fit. I think they've tried to rush him back on a number of occasions, but Beto has been a positive signing for Sean Dyche.
So Everton-Fulham all square, and if you weren't listening, in the League Cup at this stage in the quarter-finals, that would be penalties if it finishes like that after the 90 minutes and added time. So we could be 10 minutes away from a penalty shootout at Goodison Park. Everton have got their equaliser. Chelsea are pushing for theirs, but Newcastle still lead through the Callum Wilson goal. Livramento steps in on that, but the ball is played back by Gallagher. Back to Thiago Silva. Mauricio Pochettino comes out. He hitches up his trousers. He's got those white-soled soft shoes on that are favoured by so many of the managers, and now Pochettino standing out of the coaching area. And is that a bit of applause? Is that going to be Nkunku who's coming on?
I think that is the expectation, yes. His assistant's gone to Pochettino's assistant, should I say, has gone to the refereeing assistant. He's handed him the card, and out of
here's Gallagher shooting from the edge of the area, but he's dragged that well wide.
Out of shot, I think it's Nkunku getting ready to make his Chelsea debut in front of his home fans.
Yes, it certainly had that buzz, didn't it? And there is the board coming forward now. So the fourth official is being informed of the plan. Darren England is the fourth official. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. We've got a quarter of the match to go. But more news from Blackpool. Adam Kotiak.
Blackpool are heading for round 3. They have a 3-0 lead. Karamoki Dembele's free kick into the area from the left, just knocked into the net by Marvin Ekpateta. Blackpool 3, Forest Green Rovers 0.
Reaction to all of these matches on the 5 Live Football Daily in the morning. That's where you get it on BBC Sounds. That's where all of the BBC's radio is. That's where you'll find it. All of the podcasts as well, including the new Football Firsts series with Troy Deeney and Jermaine Defoe. Fantasy 606 with our very own Alistair Bruce Ball as Chelsea played away from the back, and indeed as well now new programmes, new 5 Live Sport, all about specials, looking back on the Solheim Cup and the Ryder Cup and our coverage of those two great events in the golfing world this year. So look out for that on BBC Sounds. Here is Sterling in the centre circle. Sterling passing the ball straight to Livramento. Groans from the home supporters. I wonder if it'll be Sterling who comes off when Nkunku comes on, because Nkunku is ready as Livramento is tackled by Thiago Silva, and the ball is put out of play, and I think the moment has arrived. It's Nicholas Jackson who will make way, but Stamford Bridge rises to its feet to give a belated welcome to Christopher Nkunku, the French international, of whom great things are expected. A 26-year-old, former Paris Saint-Germain, former RB Leipzig signing, who is a former Footballer of the Year in Germany for his time at RB Leipzig. And he comes here having scored 23 goals last season, 35 the season before for Leipzig. And now the hope is for Chelsea, for Maurizio Pochettino and all of these fans inside Stamford Bridge, the home fans, that he's going to make the difference, help make the difference to this Chelsea team to move in the right direction.
I just wonder, John, if that introduction was on the first day of the season, would the fans all have welcomed him with such a noise and such gusto? I'm not sure if that shows a little bit desperation around the place.
Yeah, I think so. Be interesting to see where he operates as well, won't it, Glenn? Because he can play in a number of positions. And I did wonder whether it might be a swap with Sterling, but at the moment, he's quite central, isn't he? Short sleeve shirt on.
Looks like he's just slipped into that number 10 role, doesn't he? Looks like he's almost got a free roll to roam.
Palmer
trying to affect this game.
So what's that going to mean? Where's Palmer going to go then? If he's gone there, Palmer at the moment is a little deeper. Newcastle leading by 1-0. 5 Live Sport. Carabao Cup quarter-final night. Semi-finals, 2-leg semi-finals next month. The draw will be after the Liverpool West Ham commentary tomorrow night. Misplaced pass from centre field. That didn't give Gusto much of the chance. In fact, they should have given Gusto a welcome with great gusto, shouldn't they, at the start of the season. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. More from Kevin Howells on the T20 International.
20 overs up, England 267 for 3. It's the highest T20 men's total amongst 4 nations. Terrific stuff. They're 5th on the list, below Nepal, Afghanistan, Czech Republic and Malaysia. I think they'll take that. 267 for 3.
That's an eclectic mix. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. And here is Nkunku, enter the action for the first time for Chelsea. Passes it forward for Sterling, and the ball had gone. Sterling went sprawling down, and referee Jared Gillett has booked Raheem Sterling for simulation, for diving.
It's a harsh one, isn't it? He's knocked the ball past. He's clearly gone for a Newcastle goal kick. I don't know why Jared Gillett didn't just let it be. He decided he needed to step in and give Sterling a yellow card. I'm sold on that one, but just looking at this Chelsea team, I mean, the quality is there and they show glimpses, but at the moment they just can't seem to find that right concoction of all this quality they have at their disposal, can they?
So it is Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1, as Lascelles thumps the ball most of the way up the lower tier of the West Stand. Ball quickly recovered from the side of the pitch, a new ball, and Chelsea back in action again. Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall almost moving in harmony down there together. It's like watching them walk through one of the dancers on Strictly Come Dancing. Here's Sterling on the halfway line. Now Gusto gives it out to the left. Here is Nkunku, black gloves on. Infield towards Caicedo to Cole Palmer, who does appear to be a little deeper. Pass actually hits Nkunku, bounces down for Breuer, slips it forward, but Livramento was able to get himself into the right place and pass the ball away to the halfway line, and Chelsea will start again with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, back to reset. Chelsea knocking on the door, just can't quite seem to find that killer pass and break this, what looks like a tiring Newcastle side down.
And Palmer has definitely dropped a little deeper, hasn't he?
He's in more of an 8 role, isn't he? Trying to dictate play a little bit more with that wonderful left foot of his. But just then gets it wrong, plays it all the way through to Dubravka, who again just tried to take the sting out of this game.
And at that moment, as the ball's through with Dubravka, Gusto was pushing so high up on the left-hand side that you kind of had Sterling and Nkunku just centrally behind Breuer. Chelsea are going for it, they're pushing for it as they have to. Cup tie, and they're 1-0 down. Dubravka to the halfway line. Almiron back to Longstaff. Now here's Trippier on the right. Of course, Newcastle will be looking to catch Chelsea on the counter-attack as Trippier is tripped by Sterling, and that's a free kick to the visitors on the halfway line. And Newcastle, and they're very good at this, as various managers have pointed out, slowing the game down. And that's what they're doing with this free kick. So we've got time to head to Goodison. How long left there, Alistair Bruce Ball?
7 minutes of added time underway. We've played a minute of it. Everton very nearly in front. Dan Zuma on as a sub with a fierce volley just wide of the right-hand post. Everton 1, Fulham 1, 6 minutes away from penalties.
So we could have the drama of a penalty shootout unfolding at Goodison with Alistair while we bring you commentary on the last 15 minutes of the 90 here at Stamford Bridge. There's going to be drama in the next 20 minutes in one shape or another, Glenn.
There is indeed. I think 3 different Newcastle players went to take that free kick and one didn't fancy it and then the other one went. And it is all just a little bit of game management, I think, at this stage for Newcastle United.
Yeah, took all that time, didn't it, for them to take that. Livramento then goes down that, looked a bit soft, no free kick given. Referee Gillett agrees. He's already picked out Sterling for diving, but here is Sterling now. Sterling taking it away from the halfway line. Little pass to Nkunku. No, it was just overhit. Nkunku couldn't get there. If he had, he would have been clean in, even though there were defenders coming back. I think he would have been in one-on-one.
He would have, and all the time Sterling's driving a goal. I wondered if he could go on his own, but he seemed hell-bent on finding his new teammate Nkunku, and he just gets the pass wrong, plays it in front of him, rolls out wide, and all evening I can't help but feel those little tiny details that you need at the top level to break people down have just been missing for Chelsea.
Thiago Silva, he's hit quality long pass after quality long pass in this match. That's part of his game. This one, though, headed away for Newcastle on the edge of the box. I say Mudryk and Maatsen are going to come on now. 2 further changes for Chelsea. So they're going to have Mudryk on the field as well. Chelsea, parked in Newcastle territory, leading, trailing here to Newcastle by 1-0. That Callum Wilson goal in the 16th minute, where Chelsea lost possession on the edge of their own box. Colwill gave it away. Wilson ran from the halfway line, from inside his own half, had 3 defenders to beat, and then there was an awful miscontrol by Badiashile, which presented the ball to Wilson in the penalty area, and he tucked it away brilliantly for what is his 8th goal of the season. And that's the only goal that we've seen. Newcastle, who've already knocked out Manchester City and Manchester United, might well be knocking out Chelsea on the way to the semi-finals. Middlesbrough are nearly there. They're winning 3-0 at Port Vale, and Everton-Fulham might be going to a penalty shootout in added time in those other 2 quarter-finals tonight. Here's Sterling. Sterling, little ball to Nkunku in the box. Sterling now drives towards the dead ball line, but defenders are in there, and that might have been a foul by Gusto. No, referee says play on. Longstaff was under that challenge. Gallagher controls it, gives it to the right-hand side to Disasi. Now back to Gallagher again. Returned to Disasi on the right-hand side. Livramento and Ritchie are there with him. So Chelsea have to go back into the centre circle. Still the next 2 substitutes are waiting to come on for Mauricio Pochettino's side. Ball from Caicedo to the left-hand side to Gusto. Now Sterling. Sterling out on the left. Little pass to Caicedo. Caicedo drags it back. Now out to the left-hand side again. Most of these Newcastle players were involved in that rearguard action a couple of weeks ago in Paris against PSG. So they've been through, well, in all honesty, I know I was there that night. I mean, that was something else in terms of the pressure and the chances that PSG had. It's not quite been like that tonight, but it's building that way. And here come the changes for Chelsea. So while they make those changes, let's get the news from Blackpool, from Adam Cottier in the FA Cup.
Blackpool are into round 3. They've beaten Forest Green Rovers by 3-0. Goals from Marvin Ekpateta, Owen Dale and Jordan Gabriel. He is a former Nottingham Forest player, and that is where Blackpool will go in round 3. They've beaten Forest Green 3-0.
So Mykhailo Mudryk comes on for Sterling, and Ian Maatsen takes the place of Disasi. So Maatsen is going to go across to left back, and Gusto is having played at left back since he's come onto the field. Gusto's moved across to the other side to play at his more natural right back position.
And for all Chelsea's dominance in this second half, Newcastle have sat in their bank of 4 and 5 on their 18-yard box, and they've relatively looked comfortable. And I think that'll be the disappointing thing from Mario Pochettino, that they haven't quite managed to carve out that golden opportunity. And Newcastle are just shuffling in their shape, and look, as we tick towards the last 10 minutes, relatively comfortable in this fixture.
Yep, time is running out. It's beginning to look a lot like Newcastle might take their place in the semi-finals. as I say, you know, I'm sure that experience in Paris will stand them in good stead, and the determination to get through in the way that they weren't in Paris after that very, very debatable penalty decision against them, to put it mildly, Glenn.
Oh, disgraceful decision. But I thought you were going to lead us into something else then, John. It's beginning to look a lot like... I nearly dropped my microphone.
I was thinking it's beginning to look a lot like I was beginning to say it. Here's Newcastle on the edge of the penalty area. Back it comes. Here's Bruno Guimaraes, who works the ball out, but under pressure he's just lifted it out of play. We did have Turkey in the press room tonight, downstairs, so Christmas can't be far away. One of the photographers I know down there was telling me that his next job is to go to Sandringham to take photographs of the royal family on Christmas morning. I thought, well, that's different. Here's Chelsea with the ball on the edge of their own penalty area, and I thought I had it rough, having to work on Christmas Eve this year.
I don't know, the Geordie royal family one afternoon and the actual royal family the next afternoon.
As Nkunku passes the ball out of play, and it's a throw into Newcastle, and they are inching closer to the semi-finals again, just like last season. And are the 90 minutes up at Goodison Park, Alistair Bruce Ball?
Everton 1, Fulham 1. Penalties it is for a place in the League Cup semi-finals. Beto's 82nd minute header has got us there. Both teams had chances to win it in added time. Danjuma, the closest for Everton. 1-1, we're heading for penalties.
Well, so it's not beginning to look like a penalty shootout. It is a penalty shootout at Goodison, and it's a throw into Newcastle halfway inside their own half. So we will flip-flop between here and Goodison Park once those penalties begin in the Everton-Fulham tie. Conor Gallagher just playing the ball out to Maatsen on the left. There's a bit of talk that he might be on his way in January as well, the young Dutch under-21 international. Here is Palmer. Palmer infield to Conor Gallagher. And Cole Palmer using Badiashile. Badiashile just waits and waits, just a short pass forward. Caicedo. It's the Newcastle fans you can hear making all of the noise out of the shed stand to our left. They're in bull's tears of that stand. Here's Gusto now on the right-hand side. Gusto to Gallagher. Going to get the full-time news from Vale Park in a moment. But Gusto, low ball in, little flick from Palmer, but he didn't find a teammate in blue, and Newcastle lump it out of play on the halfway line. So to Vale Park, Lee Blakeman.
Easy night for Middlesbrough, beating Port Vale 3-0 to move into the last four. 2 goals in the first half, the first from Howson, the second from Rodgers, then a third early in the second from Crooks. Wrapped it up. Vale with chances early on, didn't take them. Middlesbrough did, and are now League Cup semi-finalists. Port Vale 0, Middlesbrough 3.
So Middlesbrough are the first team through to this season's Carabao Cup semi-finals. So Middlesbrough of the Championship. Everton and Fulham about to begin a penalty shootout. Newcastle winning 1-0 here. Palmer couldn't find the pass to Maatsen, who will take the ball away back towards the halfway line. Then turn, give it to Gallagher, Chelsea's captain tonight. Gusto on the right-hand side. Cross deflected, a glancing header, but that took the power off it. When Nkunku got his head to it, I think it might have come off Dan Burn as well. That looped it into the air, and Dubravka was able to catch. And it is Portsmouth 2, Wimbledon 5 in added time at the end of the EFL trophy tie. Glenn Murray.
And just for a second, as that ball comes across from our angle, it looked like he just nipped in front of Dan Burn. It might have fell into that far corner, but it was an optical illusion. And Dubravka collects it in his midriff very happily.
Goalkeeper Petrovic clears the ball. Cheers from the Newcastle fans as it drifts out of play. Throw in on the halfway line after the disappointment against Milan at St James's Park last week. The way that tie suddenly ran away from Newcastle. This would be a little bit of consolation here if they're able to win their way through to the semi-finals. Liverpool-West Ham, that's on 5 Live tomorrow night. By the way, Liverpool-Arsenal's a 5 Live commentary on Saturday, and so is Tottenham-Everton. So 2 big commentary matches from the Premier League on Saturday afternoon. Chelsea's next match at Wolves, as I say, is a commentary on Christmas Eve. So don't leave us all alone on Christmas Eve. Join us from Molineux, won't you? Here's Gallagher playing the ball over the top of Thiago Silva, and he's going to have to get those 39-year-old legs pumping to collect the ball on the right. 6 minutes to go, Glenn. That time is disappearing for Chelsea.
It is indeed, and those Newcastle players are shuffling around that pitch, just wishing those seconds away at the moment, and they'll be hoping that they can get out of Stamford Bridge with a cheeky 1-0 win and into the semi-finals of a competition that's been good to them recently.
It has. Ball slipped through to Gusto on the right-hand side. Gusto cuts it back and it comes off Lascelles in the end. 2 men went for that. Ritchie was in there, hit Lascelles, bounces behind, corner Chelsea, corner from the right. Cole Palmer comes across to take it. There's a couple of bits of flotsam and jetsam down there that he has to kick out of the way. He tells the photographer to move out of the way as well. I hope that's not the one who's going to Sandringham. Palmer takes the corner in. It's headed away by Jamal Lascelles on the edge of the box. Good header away from the Newcastle captain. Mudryk sends it back in there, but that's overhit, and Dubravka dummies it and allows it to drop over his head for a goal kick. And we now have 5 minutes to go. Now I'll tell you when the penalty shootout is beginning at Goodison Park. Can't be far away, so I'll let you know when that is about to begin. But it is a goal kick for Newcastle here. I would not bet against Dubravka getting a yellow card for time wasting. You can hear that, by the way. You can hear the penalty shootout on Sports Extra with Conor McNamara and Michael Brown, but we'll keep you right across it here on 5 Live. Back to the T20. Kevin Howells.
You get the feeling it could be a good night for England. 267 to defend to level this series of the game to go. Very first ball of the West Indies reply. They've got a wicket. Brandon King off the bowling of Moeen Ali. Really good catch. High jumping Topley there at short third. So already the West Indies down without a run on the ball, needing 268 to win.
And the penalty shootout has begun at Goodison Park. Beto has scored the first one for Everton. So Everton 1-0 up after one penalty in the shootout. Newcastle concede a free kick. Bruno Guimaraes with the foul on Caicedo, and then Callum Wilson's run across Caicedo. He knew exactly what he was doing there, Callum Wilson. He got himself in the way of Caicedo, who pushed him over. And now, has the yellow card been given to Wilson? I presume it has.
I think from Callum's reaction, it has been given to him.
Yeah, and he said, how can that be? But he knew exactly what he was doing.
He did, but he's given a couple of soft ones away this evening.
I think that's the right decision by the referee. Yeah, Wilson knew what he was doing. Trying to slow the game down. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. The number 9 is sticking up for the number 9, believe it or not. Now to Goodison, what's happening in the penalty shootout? Ali.
First 2 penalties in the shootout have gone in. Beto for Everton, Jordan Pickford playing to the crowd for Everton, but Andreas Pereira stuck it away, and Dwight McNeil has just scored for Everton. Everton lead 2-1, all 3 penalties scored so far.
Mudryk, ball across the box. Livramento has headed it across his own penalty area and wide of the far post as we look at it. I mean, that's brilliant. He was in a very, very difficult position there, Livramento. He could easily have headed it into the path of Gallagher, and he was a little fortunate as well that it bounced away wide and behind. Corner. Here's the corner. Just taken in by Palmer. Comes off a Newcastle head at the near post and is taken up by Breuer. Now Palmer again on the right-hand side. Palmer's ball in, took a deflection off Miley, and that took the pace off it. Bruno Guimaraes, all clever, very clever. Lifted the ball away from Breuer and now playing it forward, but Maatsen will get there first for Chelsea and play it back to his goalkeeper. What about that from Livramento, Glenn?
For a second I thought it was an error and he knocked it back into an area, but he didn't. He actually headed out of play. Brilliant defensive header, but for a moment time stood still as Conor Gallagher eyed it up, and he nearly, agonisingly close to getting on the end of it. Newcastle live to fight another day.
They do, and there are only 2 minutes of the 90 left to play here. So much Chelsea possession, so much attacking from them in the second half, but actually Newcastle have defended pretty well. And Dubravka, when you think about it, you know, it's not like he's produced a string of saves by any means to keep Newcastle in front. However, still time yet. Newcastle, however, win the ball back from Mudryk, and it's played towards the halfway line and then chipped forward out of play. Longstaff can't reach that. It's a throw into Chelsea near the halfway line. 90 seconds to go. The penalty shootout continues to unfold at Goodison Park. You can hear that on Sports Extra. Middlesbrough already through. on air till 10:30 tonight, so we'll have all of the fallout. We'll try and bring you the live interviews as well. Here's Gusto on the right-hand side. Gusto coming in field, past Ritchie, then finds Gallagher. Gallagher shimmies his way round Miley. Gallagher into the penalty area, change of feet, but Livramento, the final man there, and Livramento goes down, no free kick. Gallagher with a challenge. Gallagher goes down far too easily against Livramento. You know, the Chelsea fans and the Matthew Harding stand are howling for a penalty, but Livramento turns, walks to Gallagher with his palms apart, and effectively says, "What on earth were you doing there?" It looked blatant. We'll get Glenn's view in a moment. But to Goodison, Alistair Bruce-Paul.
3-3 in the shootout, all 6 penalties scored so far. Arnaud Danjuma sends Bernd Leno the wrong way. Everton lead 4-3. The closest we've seen to a miss was Jordan Pickford getting a hand to Joao Palhinha's penalty, but he couldn't keep it out. Bobby Decordova-Reid stepping up for Fulham. Everton lead 4-3.
Glenn Murray, what do you think? Did Chelsea have a case for a penalty? Conor Gallagher?
I think the referee has got that bang on. I really do. Conor Gallagher looking for the contact, expecting the contact.
Newcastle come forward. Almiron with a shot from an angle, but impossible angle almost. Not far away from where Pape Cissé scored all those years ago now. That was the last time Newcastle won here. Totally agree, Glenn. I must say, I thought Gallagher was fortunate not to get another Chelsea player.
I was going to say that. I mean, 4 or 5 Newcastle players ran towards the referee because they were so upset at the way he went down. The contact didn't come. The referee got it right. No VAR needed. No penalty.
And with no VAR, we've only got 4 minutes of added time. Back to Goodison, Ali.
Jordan Pickford has saved Bobby Decordova-Reid's penalty, guessed the right way, low to his left-hand side in front of the Gladys Street end. He's made himself a hero, and now Amadou Onana has the chance to win the shootout and send Everton into the League Cup semi-finals. Bernd Leno must feel a man alone, obeying Gladys Street end behind him. Amadou Onana has the ball on the spot and knows if this ends up in the back of the net, then Everton are through to the semi-finals. Oh, he's missed it! Casually taken, Leno saves. We remain at 4-4 and Fulham with the next penalty to come.
Pressure tells. Here 1-0. Oh, Trippier's... Oh, it's in! The ball bounced off Trippier, and Mudryk was in like a flash. And it's 1-1 in added time. In the second minute of added time, Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea have grabbed an equaliser. The Chelsea goal comes from a Newcastle mistake from Kieran Trippier. What a terrible trot he's having at the moment. It bounced off the ever-reliable, normally, Newcastle right-back, right into the path of Mudryk, who flashed his shot into the net. It's Chelsea 1, Newcastle 1.
Chelsea have knocked on the door all evening, and it's come very late in the game. It's Kieran Trippier, the mistake, another defensive mistake that's led to a goal in this game. Kieran Trippier, he can't flick the ball on because Mudryk's behind him, so he tries to nod it back to his goalkeeper, leaves it short. Mudryk has to drop on him, nips in front, plays it across Dubravka into the back of the net. Chelsea back in it, 1-1.
Oh, Kieran Trippier, who made those 2 errors late in the game at Goodison Park, and now it's happened again. It's just one of those spells that you have in football. And the referee, Jared Gillett, has been called across. I think, is it by the 4th official? There are some stewards in there as well. I mean, he's not speaking to the managers, Mauricio Pochettino and Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall are sort of standing apart from him. The 4th official, Darren England, has spoken to Jared Gillett. I'm not sure what all of that is about, but maybe we'll find out later. So 1-1 here. It looks like a penalty shootout here at Stamford Bridge now. And what's happening in your penalty shootout, Ali?
We're into sudden death. The pressure now on the Fulham right back Kenny Tete. Carlos Vinicius stuck his penalty away to take us into sudden death. James Tarkowski stepped up, absolutely smashed his penalty into the roof of the net. So this is Kenny Tete against Jordan Pickford, and Tete knows he has to score to keep Fulham in the competition. Pickford leaping up and down, touching the crossbar crossbar. Tete jogging on the spot, approaches the ball and rolls it into the bottom corner. 5-5 in the shootout. John, back to you.
1-1 here in added time, and now a yellow card, another yellow card for Chelsea. Conor Gallagher, I think, is pulled up for that one for his foul on Bruno Guimaraes, so that's a yellow card for Conor Gallagher. And Glenn Murray, what on earth do we say about Kieran Trippier? Those two mistakes when he gave the ball away twice at Everton, and then when he was beaten all ends up by Son twice in the match at Tottenham, and now this here tonight.
Yeah,
just unlike him.
It's very, very unlike him throughout his career. Just one of those things, caught between a rock and a hard place there at the back stick. Didn't know whether to flick it on, brilliant down, and all of a sudden Mudryk nips in and punishes him, and seems at the moment that every Kieran Trippier mistake, even slight mistake, seems to be punished and highlighted. I really do feel for him at the moment. Oh, that's a terrible challenge from Bruno
Guimaraes, who was wound up. He put that challenge in on the far side on Maatsen, and it just remains to be seen what referee Gillett is going to do here. And then there was a pushing and shoving match between Bruno Guimaraes and Mudryk as well. Maatsen has rolled off the pitch. Well, I see the referee's got the yellow card out.
He was quick to go to his yellow card. Mudryk came across and got Bruno by the neck, but he never really committed to it. But this is frustration because Conor Gallagher just took Bruno out, and it was quite a cynical challenge. And the first opportunity that Bruno's got, he's absolutely taken everything out of Maatsen here. The ball goes beyond him, and that is a red card. And do you know what? I feel as though Jared Gillett's done really well this evening, but he's missed two red cards either way, one for Bruno and one for Caicedo very early on.
That could easily have been a red card for Bruno Guimaraes. It's given as a yellow, and right at the start of this match there could have been a red card for Caicedo. It was given as only a yellow card. And again, a reminder, if you just switched on, there is no VAR until the semi-finals of the League Cup. And that's it. We're going to have a penalty shootout here at Stamford Bridge after the late Chelsea equaliser. But in Goodison, Alistair Bruce Ball.
All in the shootout. We're in sudden death. Idrissa Gueye stepping up for Everton here. He's hit the post. Idrissa Gueye hits the post, and now Fulham have a chance to win this cup tie and get themselves into a League Cup semi-final for the first time in the club's history. Amadou Onana had a chance for Everton with the last penalty of 5 in the shootout to win it for Everton. He couldn't take that. Carlos Vinicius then stuck his away to take us into sudden death, and it's Idrissa Gueye who is wrapped up in the embrace of his Everton teammates. He is consoled at the moment. Tosin, the Fulham centre-back, has very calmly walked towards the ball inside the half of the field away to my left, and if Tosin Adarabioyo can score this penalty against Jordan Pickford and thousands of Everton fans behind the Gladys Street end, then Fulham will achieve something they have never achieved before. They will be through to the semi-finals of the League Cup. Jordan Pickford does the usual, comes out to the edge of the 6-yard box, spreads his arms out wide, back to the goal line he goes, and now he's bouncing up and down. Tosin finds the bottom corner, and Fulham are into the semi-finals of the League Cup, and Tosin just stands in front of the Gladys Street end and says, "What have you got?" And immediately the Fulham teammates of his come racing towards him. They leap all over him. They looked almost dead and buried in that shootout, but Amadou Onana saw his penalty saved by Bernd Leno, and in sudden death Fulham have done it. Tosin scores the winning penalty, and it's Fulham who go through to the semi-finals.
And what a moment, Ali Bruce Ball, for a team who have no domestic cup history to talk about.
Well, exactly, Steve. Never won a major domestic trophy, never won a major trophy in their history, of course. Lost the FA Cup final in 1975 to West Ham under Roy Hodgson, made the Europa League final in 2010 and lost that to Atletico Madrid. This, their 6th League Cup quarter-final. Never before have they made it to the last 4. They are there this evening, and let's not forget as well, Steve, coming to Goodison Park, where Everton have been flying recently. Coming into this game, they had won their last 4 without conceding a goal. Fulham as well recovered from conceding a late equaliser in the game. They were 8 minutes away from winning it before Beto headed in the equaliser for Everton, and they were behind in the shootout as well, in front of the Gladys Street end, with their fans miles away from the penalties, away to my right, not able to affect it at all. But they showed calmness, they showed coolness, and the former Everton boss Marco Silva has come to Goodison Park and got his Fulham team through to the semi-finals.
We'll reflect more on that after 10 o'clock. We'll also hear from the BBC Sports Personality of the Year, Mary Earps, who's just been speaking to us on 5 Live, so we'll bring that interview to you once we are done at Stamford Bridge. Penalties on the way after Chelsea won, Newcastle won. Let's hear the sounds of Stamford Bridge. Mario Melchiot is also with us on 5 Live Sport as well. Mario, you've got a feel for Kieran Trippier, haven't you, in that situation?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like when you're playing football the way he does, you understand, he's an excellent talent. I think, you know, when you go to the age group in the sense of where he is, he brings all the experience with him. But then you see just a couple of games, you understand, against the Everton game, then against Spurs he got tested by Son, and now he tried to control the ball, not knowing where Mudryk is, and he's right behind him, hits him on his, he tried to cushion the header, but then Mudryk read it and just stepped in the goal. And you don't, as an experienced player, if you ask myself and you ask him, he will never do it again, but he shouldn't have done it. Just flick it on and go and get it afterwards.
You would imagine, Glenn Murray, having made that error in what has been, unfortunately for Kieran Trippier, a string of errors, there's every chance he'll be taking a penalty.
Yeah, listen, he's a great character.
Yeah.
He's somebody that leads this Newcastle team, normally by example. Listen, it's an error. He didn't mean to do it, and I'm sure if he's asked, he will step up to the spot. I was going to say Steve, Ali gets to have all the fun up at Everton, but luckily for us, we've got a penalty shootout as well.
Steve, what's happening here now, since the conclusion of the match, and remember we said right at the end of the game, after the Chelsea equaliser, that the referee Jared Gillett came to the side of the pitch. There were stewards involved, and there was a big discussion going on. It wasn't clear what was happening there. What had happened was, we've now discovered that there was a Chelsea fan who ran onto the pitch from the Matthew Harding stand in the aftermath of Chelsea scoring the equaliser. So that's what was being discussed, and now there've been lengthy discussions going on again with the safety staff, I presume, down there in orange bibs, and the managers were involved. And I wonder whether the officials were saying that these penalties are going to have to be taken at the other end from where Chelsea equalised, because that man came onto the pitch. And in any case, there has been a coin toss, and actually the penalties are going to be taken at the end, where over 4,000 Newcastle fans are behind the goal.
I mean, John, it's quite incredible, because we're looking down on the touchline just in front of us, and there must be around about 70 to 80 people from both teams. I think it looks like Newcastle have brought their whole squad down with them. But yeah, we're in for a penalty shootout in front of the Newcastle fans, and first up is Cole Palmer.
So it's a penalty shootout on 5 Live here in this Carabao Cup quarter-final to decide who is going to go through tonight to the semi-finals with Middlesbrough and Fulham. And it's Cole Palmer, the man who calmly scored the penalty at the end of the 4-4 against his former club Manchester City, to go first. And Palmer scores, even though Dubravka went the right way and must have been very close to it. Palmer's penalty was pinpoint.
It certainly was. Low, hard into the left bottom corner, and like you say, even though Dubravka goes the right way, it's a perfect penalty. Shushes the Newcastle fans as he wheels away. Chelsea's man from the spot opens the scoring.
And now it's Newcastle's man from the spot, their main penalty taker, Callum Wilson, their number 9, who's being booed to the halfway line because he's not endeared himself to the Chelsea fans tonight. But this is a big little spell here for George Petrovic, the new goalkeeper for Chelsea. Only his 3rd appearance, and now he's involved in a penalty shootout, and he's facing Callum Wilson. This to level things up. It's high into the net. Good penalty from Wilson. Petrovic dived the right way, but it's 1-1.
And it's cool again. Callum Wilson on the evening. Second time he's hit the back of the net. No mistake. As we see Conor Gallagher striding up towards the penalty spot.
So 1-1 in the shootout. 2 successful penalties. Conor Gallagher steps forward now. Conor Gallagher, who early on in the match tonight struck the crossbar at that end with his shot when it was 0-0. Gallagher, right-footed penalty this one. Dubravka all in pink. The Newcastle fans behind the goal doing their best to try and distract Gallagher, but his eyes are on the ball. Right-footed, high, super penalty. High above the dive to Dubravka, who went the right way, but no stopping that. 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, a little fast feet before he starts his run-up. Slides up, smashes it into the top right corner. Brilliant penalty from Chelsea's captain, Conor Gallagher.
So Kieran Trippier now. Well, that's a bit of nerve being shown by Kieran Trippier. Really, just a matter of minutes after he made the error to present the ball to Mykhailo Mudryk, he steps up to take Newcastle's second penalty. There's a bit of character being shown here by one of the leaders in the Newcastle team. He's got the ball on the spot. Trippier looking to make amends. Oh, he's missed it! He's pulled it wide of the left post. And now agony is heaped on agony for Kieran Trippier. Newcastle miss first and Chelsea lead 2-1 after 4 penalties.
Yes, and the usual set-piece specialist for Newcastle, Kieran Trippier. It was a short run-up. He steps left, he comes across it. Doesn't quite find the target, blasts it wide of the right-hand post. Chelsea have the advantage.
Christopher Nkunku now, he's only just come into the action on his debut for Chelsea, and now he's in the hurly-burly of a penalty shootout here at Stamford Bridge. Sets out to the left on the edge of the box and then shoots high into the net. Great power. Again, no stopping that one, and that is 3-1 Chelsea in the shootout.
Again, starts central, steps a couple of his steps to his left, comes across the ball and blasts it high into the left-hand top corner, and that was very welcomed by the Chelsea faithful.
So Chelsea still have the advantage here, and now the pressure builds on Bruno Guimaraes, who is involved in that flare-up right at the end of the match. So again, Chelsea fans booing him as he makes his way to place the ball on the spot. Now steps away, back towards the edge of the penalty area. A long run-up for Bruno Guimaraes. Petrovic stands on the line, arms held high. Bruno Guimaraes, little delay and then tucks it away, and then cups his ears, but actually cups his ears to the Newcastle fans, encouraging them to make more noise, and it is 3-2 Chelsea in the shootout.
Yes, grabs the badge, waves a fist, shouts at that Geordie faithful to make more noise. Cool, calm penalty by the Brazilian.
So it is 3-2 Chelsea. Mykhailo Mudryk, who scored the equaliser in the second minute of added time, that took us to this penalty shootout for a place in the semi-finals. Mudryk, a short run up this one, only 3 or 4 steps. Here he comes and he scores. Sends Dubravka the wrong way, tucks it into the bottom left corner as he looks at it, and Chelsea are closing in on a place in the semi-finals.
Well, it hit the back of the net, John, but it wasn't convincing, was it? Goalkeeper goes the wrong way, rolls it into the empty side of the goal.
So it's crunch time. Newcastle have to score. And it's Matt Ritchie now. He's played relatively little football this season. Matt Ritchie, who backs away now, hands on his hips, has to score this. Left-footed, it's saved! Petrovic plays a starring role in the penalty shootout. The young goalkeeper with the key save in the shootout. And Chelsea, who were heading out in the second minute of added time at the end of this quarter-final. It's Chelsea who are through, and Newcastle are beaten in the penalty shootout. That is more agony for Newcastle. Last week, knocked out of the Champions League, knocked out of Europe, and this week, knocked out of the Carabao Cup in another excruciating way for them. And Maurizio Pochettino's team, when it looked as though they were heading out, they're through. Chelsea into the semi-finals, Newcastle out, and Chelsea 4-2 winners in the shootout after a 1-1 draw, Glenn Murray.
Yes, could this be a turning point for Maurizio Pochettino's men? A huge victory here. Looked like they weren't going to get even to penalties. A late Mudryk goal got them back in. A Newcastle mistake got them it. And from that point on, they made no mistake. And it's Chelsea who head to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup.
So Chelsea, Maurizio Pochettino, relieved man. The questions that would have been put to him had Chelsea gone out tonight, you know exactly what the narrative would have been, but now instead it's Maurizio Pochettino who's out on the field, giving his players some big hubs. There's one there as well for Jamal Lascelles too. But Newcastle, this is a test of character now, Glenn, for Newcastle United. And just as they did when I saw them well beaten at Tottenham just the weekend before last, all of the Newcastle players have gone across to the supporters in the Shed stand to thank them for their attendance. But tough time, midwinter, tough time this for Newcastle.
It is. It's been well documented, their injuries. It's been devastating for them in some respects. They've had some terrible luck, especially mentioned the PSG penalty late on over there in France. We've mentioned conceding late on here. And this is a test of character, but I'm sure that they've got enough in that dressing room to come through it. And do you know what? That's one thing that Eddie Howe's done really well for me, is harness that community. Newcastle is united, that city, and just that show of respect from that group of players for that travelling support, coming all the way down here on a Tuesday night from Newcastle, a long trip, an expensive trip, but the players thanking the fans, and that is the least they can do.
It could have been very different, the atmosphere inside Chelsea and the home sections, but now it's the Chelsea players who are going around on a lap of honour. They're through into the semi-finals. Chelsea won, Newcastle won, and Chelsea 4-2 winners in the shootout.
Lots to reflect on from Stamford Bridge and elsewhere in the League Cup, which we will do once we've checked back in on the cricket and a highly unlikely run chase for West Indies, Kevin Howes.
Well, you say that, and you're probably not wrong. Who knows? But this is the West Indies literally throwing themselves at this total to win the game in the series. A record-breaking total from England, 267 for 3, including Phil Salt's successive centuries. They're ahead of the run rate at the moment, but they've lost 3 wickets, including that of Nicholas Pooran. 39 off 15, a very well-judged catch. Diving forward, Harry Brook coming in off the boundary, off the bowling of Sam Curran. So they need 268. Currently the West Indies are 74 for 3 after 5 overs.
Thank you, Kevin. These are the sounds of Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea have beaten Newcastle United on penalties to reach the semi-finals of the League Cup, where they'll be joined by Everton, who beat Fulham on penalties after a 1-1 draw at Goodison Park, and Middlesbrough of the Championship, the last remaining side from the EFL. They won by 3-0 at Port Vale. More on all of that to come. We're going to hear from Mary Earps as well, the BBC Sport Personality of the Year. But we'll start where you are, John Murray, after a very dramatic night.
Yeah, what a dramatic night. Good cup tie, actually. It was important. It meant a great deal to both of these teams, to Chelsea and Newcastle, because of what's been happening in their seasons. Chelsea marooned in mid-table in the Premier League in Maurizio Pochettino's first season, and Newcastle just off the pace in terms of the positions for the Champions League, knocked out of Europe last week. So therefore the domestic cup competitions meant a great deal to them, and for so long Newcastle led after an almost comedy goal that Chelsea conceded. Mistakes by Colwell, and Callum Wilson's persistence paid off after Badiashile totally miscontrolled the ball on the edge of his own penalty area. Wilson scored. Newcastle led right until the 2nd minute of added time, when it was Kieran Trippier again, another in this recent list of mistakes. Ball into the box, Trippier miscontrolled it, headed it straight into the path of Mudryk, who scored for a very relieved Chelsea. And then the penalty shootout, it was Petrovic with the key save at the end from Matt Ritchie. Poor Kieran Trippier also missed his penalty. Palmer, Gallagher, Nkunku and Mudryk all scored theirs. So 4-2 in the shootout.
We've got the former Chelsea defender Mario Melchiot with us, and Glenn Murray, who's alongside John at Stamford Bridge. Glenn, this could be a sliding doors moment for Chelsea, couldn't it?
Yeah, I really feel it could be, and we've actually just watched Chelsea do a lap of honour, winning in the quarter-finals of the Carabao Cup, and the jubilation, honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that the fans just clearly need something to get behind and something to cheer. And I think it's mixed with a tinge of relief as well that they've managed to get there. They weren't particularly good. They had the lion's share of possession, I think almost 80% of possession, without really creating something. It boiled down to a Kieran Trippier mistake that got them back into the game. From that point on, they've run from penalties. But yes, you might be right, Steve. It could be a sliding door moment here for Chelsea and for Mauricio Pochettino and this new group, this new Chelsea project that we see happen before our eyes.
Mario, football fans are tremendously honest. You know how they're feeling, they will make it clear. But at the end of the day, everybody just wants to get behind their team. Nights like tonight will make it easier for Chelsea fans to do that.
Yeah, of course, because you know when you watch your team or you go to the stadium, you always want to see the best to come out of it. And then watching them play, like Glenn already said, they got into the game. I told you already, first half, Gallagher hit the crossbar. That's when they woke up a little bit. They tried to control the game. Okay, regardless if they conceded a goal at a time, they were always pushing and trying to get themselves back in the game. He made some key substitutions, you understand. For example, Matson he brought Mola Gusto on. Not that Cole had anything, but he wanted to go more forward and be more advanced because he knew he was going to get more of the ball. Then you have to have players on that can open things up because it looked very safe what they were playing at first half. And so that's why they kept on going forward. Okay, Trippier makes a mistake. And for me, it was funny for Trippier to make the mistake. Why? Because I like him as a player. He's a very, very good right-sided player. But I don't know what's happening now. It's been a couple of games in a row, you understand. The Everton, the Spurs game, now against Chelsea where he slipped up a little bit. But away from that, back to Chelsea, I think they can look back and they can build from this game. I don't want to really jump, you understand, and start saying like, regardless if I support them, and saying like they're right on track, but it's something they can look forward to have the next game going on. But away from that, they have to still build the momentum, and it looked really good when Nkunku came on, because that's somebody that will really, really need.
You have to feel for Kieran Trippier, Glenn, don't you?
Yeah, you do, without doubt. Listen, I think all professionals have moments where you just can't seem to put a foot right, and unfortunately Kieran Trippier's in one of those. And do you know what? He showed great character, and he stood up, took a penalty, and usually so reliable in everything he does, especially from set pieces. But just that element of doubt in his mind at the moment, and he drags it wide, and it's a tough moment for him, but I have no doubt that he'll bounce back, he'll show resilience like he always has during his career. He had it a little bit at Spurs when he seemed to be the go-to man to blame for everything for a little while there at the end of his Spurs spell. You know what, he bounced back, went to Atletico, and he's led this Newcastle team on to quite special things considering where he signed from. He was the first one to take the leap with Eddie Howe as a seasoned professional, as someone that had been at the very top of the game. And so far it's went perfectly. This is just a blip in the road for him.
The question, I think, for the professionals, Steve, I think is, you know, with Kieran Trippier, I think that tells you everything that you need to know about his character. The fact that he knows that he's made the mistake, he knows he's going through the spell that Glenn's talking about, but he's determined and probably demands to take that second penalty after Callum Wilson was taking the first. Is that, I mean, it's easy in hindsight, but is that the right decision, or should Eddie Howe perhaps have stepped in and said, look, I'm not sure this is the right time for you to do this?
Well, I think you've got to trust your players, especially the ones that have been around, played at the very top for a very long time. And it's a difficult one. I mean, does Eddie stand up and say, don't take it? I mean, if Kieran feels comfortable to take it, I think you say, yeah, you get back on the horse, you prove yourself right. And you stand up, and unfortunately it just didn't happen for him tonight, and it will be highlighted because of recent mistakes for him as well. But like I say, I have nothing but faith in Kieran Trippier.
Mario?
Yeah, there come moments, I like the question. There come moments when you play football, there are some players, they have the certain character. I think when you step up to the game and you make a mistake, you grab the ball, and then the coach is not going to dispute and saying to you, like, don't take it. You're going to take it because he knows what kind of character you possess. And then it comes down, of course, he slips up. But normally, anybody, you know, like if you ask me, what I thought he would score that goal, yeah, of course, I thought he would take that penalty, clean it up and make everybody move on again. But now he missed the penalty, and that's why it's a downside for him. But mind-wise, it comes down in football. It's a lot of times we're playing mind games, and with the strongest mind, they are the ones that really survive really well. So that's why I see Trippier coming back and finding his way through it. Like Glenn already highlighted, when he was at Spurs, went to Atletico. Okay, Eddie Howe came to Atletico, and that's where he spent some time when he was out of his job. So he looked up in Simeone how he worked, and probably must have spoken to Trippier at that point. Together they joined again, and at Newcastle he was part of that building in the beginning. And now if we look back at it, I feel sad for him, but this is the part where it comes down to, this is what football is all about. You got to step up and make it happen, and I have no doubt he will.
And listen, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, Steve. So it might be a heartwarming Christmas-style story that at some point this season, Kieran Trippier, you know, things turn out very differently for him, and we'll look back on this and say, well, you know, he had the character to come through it when the big moments come, and he does deliver.
And I think also, Steve, just to jump in there, is that obviously Trippier, he did make a mistake, but let's not forget that the Newcastle goal was from a mistake as well, from Badiashile, who didn't step up for a penalty. So we see just a little bit of character and a bit more experience from Trippier. And do you know what? I think if you rewound time and you asked him to step up again, he would. And that shows what type of person he is. And that's what Newcastle need, those type of people, to get them through this little blip they're in at the moment.
Yeah, if it goes, you know, the FA Cup tie against Sunderland, if that goes to a penalty shootout, who'll be standing up? You can bet your life it'll be Kieran Trippier.
There was a fairy tale in there, though, John, and it was for Georgi Petrovic.
There was, yes, this young goalkeeper who's had to step into the spotlight, made his full debut on Saturday, so this only his second start for the team. I mean, if you're a goalkeeper, you're in a great position. If you save a penalty in the penalty shootout, you're going to be lauded as the hero. But yeah, he played his part, and he made that save from Matt Ritchie to win the shootout and send them through.
Glenn, I feel like on this game, I have to finish with this one, because we spend a lot of time discussing VAR, and you know, for a lot of people, VAR isn't very popular, but for the sake of balance here, watching back the challenge from Caicedo right at the start of the game, you have to feel that there is a very good chance with VAR that would have been a red card. So Eddie Howe would be within his rights if he decides to point that out, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think happening so early in the game, yeah. And right from that point there, 11v10 for what is effectively over 90 minutes when you take into consideration extra time. That takes its toll. You're not talking about 20 minutes at the end when you can hang on. I mean, you're talking 90 plus minutes, because it was a red card. And equally, I think Newcastle should have had a red card, Bruno, but that was right at the end, so it wouldn't have affected the game so much. So yes, Eddie Howe is well within his rights, and I'm not sure VAR from the semi-final onwards, you either have it or you don't. Is that not the case?
I think you might find some support in that point of view, Glenn. Difficult to say. Glenn Murray and John Murray at Stamford Bridge, Mario Melchior.
Steve, it's not like you to sit on the fence, is it?
I feel like I was pretty clear there, to be honest.
Oh, my God.
Lines were quite easy to read between.